What's up, San Diego? Braden Surprenant here on the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. A little bit of a special addition to the show as we are getting ready to get to the A.J. Preller press conference today. It's going to be a Zoom press conference that we're going to air live on 97.3 The Fan as we await for A.J. Preller and everybody to get ready to go over there. We're going to get to it momentarily. Our coverage of the press conference of this 97 to the Fans commercial-free coverage of A.J. Preller's press conference today is presented by criminal defense attorney David P. Shapiro. Facing criminal charges, trust David P. Shapiro, criminal defense attorneys, helping clients regain control since 2010. Visit davidpshapirolaw.com. I think it's going to be a little bit of an end of a season press conference mixed in, obviously, with the news that Mike Shildt announced yesterday that he is retiring as the Padres manager. That's what it was said. We're going to talk more about that in the 11 o'clock hour. We're going to dive deeper into, some of the things that Mike Shildt said in an article now by Dennis Lin that he put out this morning. We'll talk about that, and we'll recap a little bit of what's going on and what happens in this particular press conference. But we're just kind of waiting for everybody to get set up on the Zoom, and we will get you that coverage as quickly as possible. Obviously, it'll be a little bit of an introduction and everything like that, but interesting times for Padres fans yet again in a process of hiring a brand new manager for the San Diego Padres, and something that A.J. Preller is going to have to do now for the fifth time, as it will be the sixth manager under A.J. Preller in an 11-year span. So going to be interesting to see what is said about this particular deal, about what A.J. Preller's thoughts are with this. But as we await, and Frank's going to give you the heads up when A.J. Preller's ready to go, it's obviously an interesting time now in Padres baseball because you're not trying to change something, right? You're not trying to put something new together. You're trying to really pick up where you left off and maybe get to the next level with the team that's going to be a team that's pretty much the same from last year, or maybe a couple of moves here and there. We'll see what kind of money is going to be spent on next year's roster. And again, maybe A.J. Preller will allude to how the process is going to be a little bit when it comes to hiring the next manager of the San Diego Padres. So just kind of waiting for this Zoom press conference to get underway. As a lot of people in the YouTube chat are putting together and throwing out there what exactly they would like to see in a Padres who would they like to see in a Padres uniform as a manager. Obviously, it's interesting that I'd be curious to see if A.J. Preller gets a contract extension before they make this hire. I mean, to have a general manager hire a manager in a lame duck kind of year is an interesting ploy. I find that to be interesting. But we'll see what the Padres had to do, and let's get to the press conference today.
Media availability with Padres President of Baseball Operations and General Manager A.J. Preller. If this is your first time on one of our Zoom calls, please utilize the chat feature. And if you have a question, state your name and your affiliate, and I'll call on you when it's your turn. AJ is going to begin with an opening statement today before we open them to questions. So with that said, AJ, take it away.
Thanks, Craig. Just want to start off, obviously, with Mike's announcement yesterday, to say a few words about Shilty. I think from the Padres and from myself, a ton of appreciation for Mike and the job he's done here the last 4 years as a member of the Padre organization, and specifically the last 2 years as the manager of the Padres. I think, we've had a lot of success here in terms of winning games, and I think in large part to the job Mike's done as a manager, our coaching staff and our players, and Mike leading that pursuit. The ability, it's not easy to win in the big leagues and to go back-to-back 90-win seasons, go to the playoffs multiple years, win a playoff series. In the 4 years he's been a part of the organization, 3 times in the playoffs, a trip to the NLCS. Mike's done a lot of the heavy lifting, honestly, in terms of getting the team in that spot and getting the organization in that spot. I think for Mike, everybody that knows him, he's somebody that puts his entire being into the job. It's 24/7 baseball, and I think puts his blood, sweat, and tears into the Padres and the organization. And I have a lot of respect personally for him, on that end. He's a baseball lifer, and he's devoted himself to the Padres over the last 4 years. The last few days, I had the opportunity to talk to Mike a lot, and I think they've been great conversations, reflecting back a lot of good times, good memories, good thoughts from the last few years. Definitely talking about some of the things that we screwed up together, and I screwed up as well. I think it's been nice to hear from him his appreciation for the organization, and specifically his appreciation that he mentioned, like, one of the main reasons why he thought about coming back was our working relationship, and to hear that respect from him, I think is important to me, and meant a lot. I think we're going to go grab lunch here in a few hours. He's paying, and I think to me, like, now the pursuit goes to going to find a manager that'll help us continue in our pursuit of winning world championship for the Padres. In terms of the season, I know we're going to talk a lot about the year and the off season ahead. And I think my takeaway overall from the year, I think, is a very good year overall for the organization. Like I mentioned, to get to the playoffs, that's not easy. I think we all take a lot of pride in doing that. It was a hard-fought series against the Cubs, ultimately fell short. It wasn't the finish that we all wanted. I think a few years ago when I started here, the talk was about getting to the big stage, and that bar has clearly been raised. And we're going to do everything in our power over the course of the next few months to get to that big stage, which is, getting to a spot where we're playing at this point next year, and we're eventually playing and winning in a World Series. So that pursuit starts today with our off-season process, and we'll open it up to any questions here now.
We'll go ahead and get started with questions. First up, we'll go to Kevin AC, San Diego Union Tribune. Again, if you have a question, please put it in the group chat and I'll call on you. Kevin?
AJ, from your perspective, how did Mike Shilt's retirement go down in terms of you learning about it? And did it have anything to do with any sort of conflict with anyone in the organization from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think, to me, it was probably more of a surprise than a shock. I think, we obviously talk all the time throughout the season, and you get a feel for, like, where he's at, where his mindset and everything like that. I think when we left Chicago, last week, he said, hey, let me get 5 or 6 days to kind of recharge the battery, kind of talking about being burnt out a little bit. And he went back home to the Carolinas, and I talked to him, multiple times last week. It was more small talk, just kind of checking in, seeing how things were going, talking about starting to get ready for the off season, starting our review process. And then when we got to this weekend, you could tell that he was just having some thoughts about what it all meant. And, Saturday he got back to myself and John and Eric, and, just eventually said, hey, this is something that I just don't have the energy to do, physically, mentally, don't see myself continuing in this spot. So that's kind of the last week. Again, like, as the year was going on, we always have conversations about where we're at, what we're thinking, everything like that. So again, probably more of a surprise than shock.
So, like, that's the entire scope of, like, your understanding of why he walked away, is just being burnt out.
Yeah, I mean, I think these jobs, at the end of the day, like, it's baseball. It's a lot of fun. It's it brings a lot of joy to a lot of people, and but it's a lot of time that goes into these jobs. I mean, I think it's 162 game season. It's 180 days. It's the off season. It's not really the off season anymore. The way Mike goes about his job, it's not much of an off season, honestly. He's involved heavily in terms of player plans and programming, and working with staff. So again, I think in hearing from Mike, and when you talk about somebody that throws every fiber of his being into helping the Padres or helping the team that he's a part of, that's how Mike goes about it. That's how a lot of people in the baseball world go about it, but Mike specifically.
Thanks.
AJ Castleville, MLB.com.
Hi, AJ. This is obviously leads to another manager search, and you've talked a lot about stability, but this is, I think, going to be a fourth manager in 6 years. And how does that affect kind of what you're trying to build and how you go about building, and how do you make sure that going forward you can kind of maintain some of the momentum that you've built the last couple of years with Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I think, in terms of, again, I think in terms of the organization, I mean, from, there's, a lot of us now have been together for a long time, from, Eric Grubner, myself, from the PR staff, from, members of the coaching staff. You look at guys like Ben Fritz and Ruben on the pitching side, Ben, I think for 11 plus years. And now Ruben's starting to get to, half a decade with the Padres. You look at Mark Rogo, our head trainer, Josh Stein, Pete Young, and a lot of others in the front office. So, there's a lot of us, and from a player standpoint, we have a lot of guys that I think, again, by design, you need stability and people with ability. And I think, from a player standpoint, we've got a core group that's, from Machado to Tatis to Cronenworth, et cetera, that have been parts of these playoff runs and, a big part of what we do. So I think it's crucial. I think in the manager chair, for different reasons over the last 5 or 6 years, we've had different managers in those spots, and we've gotten to the playoffs with different managers, which I think speaks to the strength of the roster and the organization, et cetera. But no, I think the idea is similar to those other areas that I outlined. It's to have a manager that's here for 10 years, just like a lot of other people in this organization have, and there's a lot of value in that. So I understand that. I understand the value that comes with that. And I think that's the goal here, when we make this next hire, is to have somebody that's here for the long haul, like a lot of people have been in this organization.
And then just to clarify, you expect to be back in this role this upcoming season, and what is your expectation for the future, given that your contract with your contract going forward and what it might look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think from my standpoint, I love the Padres in San Diego. I think obviously, like, proud to be a part of this thing, and like, proud of the work that's been done over the last 10 years to get us to a spot where, we're one of the more successful franchises. I think we understand there's some unfinished business that's left to be done. I look forward to having conversations with John and the group, here this off season. But again, like, we have a lot of work to do. So it's, we've got a good team coming back, and I think for myself and our front office, our focus is always on trying to build, a championship team year in, year out, something that's sustainable. But again, like, I enjoy it. I love it. I love San Diego. I enjoy the people here. Feel responsible for, for the people that are here, and really enjoy the relationships, and looking forward to this off season, honestly, and the future.
Next, we'll go to Tom Krasovic, UT.
Good morning, AJ. Managers seem to burn out faster than presidents of baseball ops and GM types. At least there seems to be more turnover. Do you think the managerial job, there's more wear and tear and on guys and causes health problems at a higher rate than perhaps your job?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it's all, I think it's obviously, like, individual based, and I know these jobs, like I said, it's baseball, so it's, there's a lot of joy to the job. I don't want to, I can speak from my own experiences. There's a ton of fun every single day coming to a ballpark and talking and watching baseball. But again, like, everybody's going to respond differently. It is like, there is a time sensitivity. There's a lot of man hours that are spent on it. So, again, I think from our standpoint, I think as an organization, like, there's a lot of togetherness, and a lot of people that understand you're spending more time here at the ballpark than you are in most cases with your family. So you got to enjoy it. You got to like it. And I think from a health standpoint, it's important to be happy when you come into work, because we spend so much time together, honestly.
Do you think, but you don't think there's anything intrinsically about managing that's more stressful? There seems to be more turnover at manager.
Yeah, I mean, the manager job, obviously, like, you're traveling with the team, you're in uniform, you're 3 hours, it's intense competition that you have a direct role of what's going on. I think one of the benefits, you get to deal with the media twice a day, so that may help to lengthen some lies, but just kidding. But no, it's a different deal. Obviously in the front office, you're able to, you're watching the game from a different perspective, different lens. The travel's differently. The travel's different. The manager job, it's you're there with your players and your group, and it's similar to a player in terms of being in the clubhouse, the locker room, the day-to-day grind of it. I think that's like, it's a different pace. And I think what you're saying, Tom, like, yeah, maybe that again, that pace is a challenge, like honestly, from a time spent standpoint, front office jobs, you spend a lot of time, just it's a different type of it's a different type of physical toll. And that makes some sense to me, what you're saying.
Thanks.
Kyle Blazer, foul territory.
Hey, Jay, you mentioned the conversations that you had with Mike over the course of the year. When did he first indicate to you that this might be, a step he wanted to take and retire at the end of the year?
I mean, I don't, like the retirement piece that really didn't come up throughout the season, like that portion of it. I think you could just tell again, like, like again, physically, mentally, the joy you get from from the job. I think those are different things we talk about all the time, like big picture wise, me and him. But I think it was more when we got to Chicago, like you get to Chicago and now the season's, it's done. There's a lot of emotion in that room. There's a lot of emotion from our players. We have a lot of guys that care a ton about this thing. And I think kind of coming out of that was the first time, like talking to him, where it was like, all right, yeah, this is something he's that definitely wore on him, and more so from his standpoint, this is something he's got to make some decisions on. So in terms of where he was at, so
Great. And then what does the timeline look like for conducting managerial interviews and potentially making a hire?
yeah, I think we'll get started here today. In terms of just like getting the candidate list together. And then, starting with the interview process and, kind of going from there. I think it's really just more about, getting, quality candidates together, being thorough with our process. And I don't think there's any said, hey, by the GM meetings or by this date. I think it just when we feel like we've been thorough, in the organization, we've got all of our, our questions answered, and I know we've got a good group that's already starting to reach out. That's, I think, interested in the opportunity. But it's no said, hey, we need it by this date, et cetera. I think it's when we go through the process and feel good about everything that we'll have our next manager.
Awesome. Thank you.
David J.
AJ, when Mike came to you with this, was there any discussion with him about another role in the organization, going back to the player dev side where he has such deep roots?
Well, Mike was pretty clear. I mean, I think like from his standpoint that, he doesn't know exactly what the next step is, but I think for him, it's just a chance to take a break. And, I think, he enjoys the game and baseball and everything like that. But I think he was pretty clear, like this is what he wanted to do, is his decision, his path. And we respected that, and just supported that.
Dennis Lynn, The Athletic.
AJ, you spoke about this generally a little bit earlier, but have you had conversations with ownership about a potential extension for yourself? And do you expect to be here past 2026?
I mean, to me, like, again, I think like in terms of, my situation and the contract, obviously that'll be between me and ownership, and, what that process looks like. And again, I think, we'll have those conversations here going forward. But, I think from, myself and the rest of the baseball ops group, a lot of confidence and faith in like our roster, what we're trying to do, what we're trying to build. And that's going to be a big emphasis and focus here over the course of the next few months from our end, is putting a championship team on the field for next year and the future.
Do you view that though as maybe a concern for potential your next manager who might not know, exactly what the future or the organization future of baseball ops is?
I mean, I think it's a really attractive job. I mean, I think it's obviously we, play in a beautiful ballpark. We've get, everybody talks about the atmosphere has been created by the fans of San Diego. You get 3.5 million fans coming to the ballpark, year in, year out. It's as good an atmosphere as there is in the game. I think it's like I mentioned, it's a great organization. We produce players, we put talented rosters on the field. We go to the playoffs. I think it's the challenge of winning a World Series in a city that hasn't done it before. And we have some phenomenal players and staff. So it's, I can only tell you, like, just in the last few hours, you get a lot of people reaching out. I think I think from my eyes, it's an attractive position and job. And I can tell from the interest that's been coming in and then some of the conversations that have happened here in the last few hours, like it's viewed that way in the baseball community.
Next, we'll go to Jeff Sanders.
Hey, AJ, you've had two managers walk away from playoff caliber teams. What do you think that says about the organization? And are you concerned about what maybe the outside world thinks that says about the organization?
No, I mean, I think, yeah, again, like I think we, like each situation's been a little bit different. And I think in Bob's case, obviously he went to San Francisco, the last few seasons and felt like that was a dream opportunity for him. I think in Mike's case, I think it's a different set, of circumstances for him. So again, I can, you look up and down our team, our organization, our roster, our players, we've got a lot of people that have been here for a long time. It's a great place to work. It's a fun place to work. Again, it's always demanding. Like that's just the nature of high performance sports and in Major League Baseball. And again, I think we set a high bar. That's a good thing. But it's a collaborative environment, it's a fun environment, and that's why I think a lot of people have been here for a long time. And again, like you hear from the players all the time, like this is a crown jewel, this is a destination for players, and it's we have players that have come from other organizations and some other top organizations, and they talk about the Padres being being a the spot that's the best place they've played in. And players aren't going to talk like that and just say that they're coming here because they see a lot of connection, a lot of people together, a lot of things that are well run and done, and they have success. They like to win. So I think for all those reasons, I think it's a fun place to work, honestly.
And then your last two managers had experience. Do you need a certain experience level for the next manager, or will you entertain rookie first-year managers?
I mean, again, I think everything's on the individual. I think we've seen, and you see it, in the playoffs, you see successful managers that come from all different backgrounds. We've had, last two managers have been very accomplished and guys have had success elsewhere and had success here. I think we've also seen, guys that have been first year managers, Jace's first year, getting to the playoffs and finishing the top 2 or 3 in manager of the year. So you look throughout the year, throughout the game, there's a lot of good managers that have done it for the first time. There's a lot of good managers that, have been in their second or third stop. So I think for us, it's just going to be best fit, best person, who that is, who fits our group and our team. We're going to be very thorough in what we do and talk to a lot of people that come from different backgrounds and experience levels, and hopefully get somebody that's here for a long time and lead us to a championship.
Okay, CBSA.
AJ, you talked about that core group of folks that have kind of helped elevate this organization to where it is and been around for a while, including the coaching staff. How important is it for you with this next hire to make sure that part of the coaching staff kind of stays in place? An example, if you were to go external, maybe somebody wants to bring in their own coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, we have great coaches, I think that are on the staff, and again, I think, the way we look at the coaching staff piece, I think it's important to have, the manager weigh in and have his say on the staff. But I think it's, you want a manager that understands that there are good people that are already in place, and I think, that's a collaboration, that's a together conversation about what that looks like. So again, I think a manager is going to come here knowing that we have some super talented people that are in place and we've done a lot of winning. So, we'll be open if there's some ideas on, hey, we can change this or tweak that. But I think we also understand, and I think anybody we talk to is looking at it going, this is why it's an attractive place, is because we already have some staff members that are in place that are doing a great job, and this is why it's an attractive spot for any candidate, to be a part of that, honestly. So that'll be part of the process once we get a manager in place.
And then a logistical follow-up with Mike Schilt. Was there any financial settlement with the final 2 years of his deal, or did he walk away from 100% of the money in those final 2 years?
Yeah, I think again, I say this all the time, but from an organization standpoint, that's, not commenting on anybody's individual contract situation or the financial impact of that.
Marty Caswell.
Hi, AJ. Who is going to be involved in the process for hiring the next manager? I mean, yourself, is it ownership? Who else is going to be involved in this?
I think when you go through something like this, it's obviously a crucial hire. You want to, you want to, give each candidate an opportunity to get a feel for the organization. So, I think an opportunity to be around, the different departments and then, the department heads in baseball ops is important. I think from, having candidates spend time with ownership, with Eric Grubner, I think that's important for them to get a good feel for everything, like what the Padres entail, and what it's about. I think part of it's like for us to obviously make an evaluation. I think the one thing though ultimately is you can have different people weigh in with what it looks like and and be part of the process. But again, like that relationship between Josh, myself, the manager, that's going to be a key one as well. So again, I think we've done, we'll be thorough in that review process, making sure that the candidates get a chance to, and our group gets a chance to go out and have those conversations. And then, ultimately I think it's it's a conversation, Josh, myself, Eric and John, to make a decision on what that looks like.
And by all accounts, Mike had a very close relationship with a lot of key guys in that clubhouse. What's been the reaction of a player specifically like Manny Machado, who has 8 more years left and has gone through quite a few managers during his time with the Padres?
Yeah, I've had conversations with a bunch of the players. I have to have more here in the next couple of days. I think like from the player standpoint, it's like you would expect, it's all different. Everybody's had different reactions. I mean, everybody's an individual and they're going to have their own thoughts. Again, I think for the most part, I think, most of the reaction has been about, an appreciation for Mike and what he brought to the table. And, we've done a lot of winning in the last couple of years with Mike as our manager. So I think everybody respects that. And then I think some of the conversation has been looking forward. So, again, I think that's been some of the conversations I've had with the player group.
I do one more. I'm sorry. Were you aware of any conflict whatsoever with Mike and the coaching staff or members of your baseball department?
I think, I've seen that out there. I mean, I think the biggest thing about that, again, like I think the last 2 years, like a lot of the success we've had is because of, how tight the group has been together in terms of the coaching staff, the front office, the players. I think you see it translate onto the field with the player group. Again, like there's always going to be tension. There's in a high performance atmosphere. There's going to be disagreements. I mean, I think that's healthy. And like, I think that part of it is, I think that's the nature of when you spend 180 days together with different people. But again, I feel like a big part of it, like the last couple of years of why we've gotten to the playoffs, 190 games, been successful, is because there has been that togetherness with, staff, players, and I think the players have felt that.
Darnay Tripp, NBC.
Sort of related to Jake's question, when you hired Mike Shildt, you touted the familiarity that he had being within the program, the organization a couple years before he was hired. Being that there are some potential internal candidates, how important of a factor, how valuable might that be with some of those guys, considering who you give the job to going forward?
Yeah, I think we have, I think, like you mentioned, Darnay, we have some strong internal candidates, and I think that'll be one thing that they bring to the table, is the knowledge of, the organization, but it's definitely our roster, our players, our people. So I think there's a lot of positives to that. But I'm also anxious to get a sense from some people from outside the organization, to get a feel like with a fresh perspective and what that looks like, and their take from outside. So again, I don't think it has to be this way. It's, this is going to be a must, for us as we go down this, as we start the process, at least maybe as we get into it, something that really starts to pull on us, that this is super important. But we're going to talk to, again, like I mentioned, we have others that are being asked about in other spots in the league, that are internal candidates right now. So we have a strong group that we're going to talk to that have had those experiences, and then we'll also do our best to talk to people that are outside the organization and get maybe a different perspective there.
And as far as the roster goes, what do you view as kind of the biggest needs going forward, and where does more power, a power bat, kind of fit in that?
Yeah, I mean, I think as we start the off season, I think the good part is kind of the core foundation, in terms of the position player group, and the bullpen is there. I think, you look up and, like from the bullpen, which was a huge strength for us this year. Obviously we'll see what Robert Suarez's situation is. But I mean, you have, the ability with Mason Miller and Maury Hone and Jason Adam coming back, and, a group of guys that have been here for a long time, the development, hopefully of a David Morgan and a Bradley Rodriguez, and some guys in the system too, that I think are going to play in for us in the pen. So I think we start by looking and seeing we have a bullpen that should be a strength for us again. A position player group that you go around the diamond. We have a couple free agents with the rise and O'Hearn, but around the diamond, we can basically go play, like a decision to make on Ramon and his situation, Ramon Laureano and his option deal. But, again, when you start a team with Merrill, Tatis, Machado, Bogarts, Cronenworth, now Fermin, it's a good place to start, and then the starting pitching side is going to be a huge boost getting Joe back, having Nick back and, to front the rotation, I think will be big. With King and Cease free agents, those will be questions for us, Vasquez and Sears and others in the rotation to kind of add to the depth and compete. It's clear, like, starting pitching is a clear area of need. And then, like you mentioned, on the offensive side, I've seen a lot said, power bat. I think it's like that mix. You want to be able to do both. I think, like, at times we've had it here, at times, like you look in the postseason, you see some teams where it's like, oh, we need more contact. That's what wins in the postseason now. Then everybody, okay, home runs wins in the postseason. It's like, it's both. You got to have a team that can do a lot of things if you're going to try to win a championship. We didn't quite do enough of that this year in terms of just being that offensive force and putting that pressure. There's a lot of ways to do it. Hitting the ball out of the park is obviously a nice thing to do. I think we're capable of doing that. I think we're going to look to add to that. But I think it's that balance between, like, grinding at bats and hitting the ball out of the ballpark and having that consistent offensive pressure. I think that's what we talk about all the time. We've got to find some ways to get a little bit better on that front this offseason.
Thank you.
Andy Halbrand.
Hi, AJ. You may have just answered it, but to confirm, does Mason Miller have any directive this offseason to prepare to compete for a spot in the starting rotation, or do you see him in the pen as reliever for next year?
We just talk again, like, this is, we'll kind of start our review process and start having more communication with the players, with Ruben and Fritzy in that group also. The only thing I said to Mason at the end of Chicago was honestly, like, hey, like, obviously, like, thankful for the way he performed and impressed with how he went about his business after a big trade. And then just telling him that we'll be in touch in the next couple of weeks and have that conversation. So that'll be up between us and Mason. I think the good news is he's one of the great talents in the game. He can do a lot of things on the mound. I think we've seen, like, obviously the dominance with the fastball slider mix, the changeup coming into play. We've had some success here making guys starters, between, Pomeranz and King and Lugo, and some others that I may be forgetting. But, at the end of the day, like, we'll get together as a group. We'll have our thoughts. We'll definitely get Mason's thoughts and hear what he thinks is best. We'll see how the off season plays out roster wise, and then we'll have some clear direction for him of what that looks like.
And then my last question is, Darvish mentioned he had a few things to think about at the end of the postseason. Have you heard from him or had any conversations with him? And do you expect him to be in the starting rotation next season?
Yeah, I talked to you quite a bit here over the last week or so, and so have others in our group. I think it's something that, we'll keep talking to him over the course of the next couple of weeks to see what it all means for him. I think, again, like, this year, really starting in spring training, he was probably not 100% all spring training in terms of, or we got into the regular season. He's a big part of the organization, and I think we'll have more conversation here over the course of the next couple of weeks. But it's just really been the start of it overall. Honestly, we haven't really had a chance to get too detailed on anything, and I think we'll start digging in more with Darvish and others here over the course of the next couple of days and leading up to the GM meetings here at the beginning of November.
Thank you.
Thank you, Annie.
Kyle Blazer.
Hey, Jay, you kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier, but what are the main traits and qualities you'll be seeking in the next manager?
I think starting with, just baseball knowledge and content. I think, like, somebody that obviously, like, knows the game very, very well, is always part of it. I think somebody that can, relate to people and players and, has the ability to be honest with players, but understands that the way to deliver messages may be different for different guys. I think somebody that really, at the end of the day, like, is valuing the organization, And it's all about the organization and trying to win championships and embraces that. I think somebody that embraces expectations. I think that's a real thing in this market right now. It's like it's a cool thing to be a part of is looking up and like a really good fan base that now like like the expectation is go win a World Series, and somebody that embraces wanting to do that for the first time in this situation. So I think somebody that enjoys being part of a good baseball group that loves to talk the game, and ultimately, I think that person's gonna have a lot of say. I think we try to do that as a baseball team to give the manager a lot of say, and hey, remember to use your feel, and you're here for a reason, etc. But somebody that's looking to gather a lot of information, take in different inputs, and then make some big decisions and important decisions for our group. Those are some things I think off the top that we're going to be looking for.
And then a player-related question. Manny had his third straight season of a sub-800 OPS. He's moving into his mid-30s. Obviously, he takes a lot of pride in posting every day, but given the production, especially the fall-off at the end of the year this year, have you guys had any thoughts or discussions about, changing it up and maybe building in some more off days for him throughout the season to keep him fresher?
That'll be, again, I think that'll be stuff that we discuss and talk about as we get to the off season. We'll sit down with Manny and kind of get his takes. He's a good self-evaluator in terms of, when we sit down and have these conversations about the off season and things that he can do differently and better. I think, again, it's all about just trying to get the best performance on the field. And for some guys, that's doing everything you can to play 162. For some guys, that's doing less. Sometimes guys reach that point in their career. I think to me, like that's what the next, couple of weeks and months about is one, to get Manny's perspective on what he's feeling about his overall season, not just what you're talking about, Kyle, in terms of, the off day component. I think to me, that's again, like using our manager and our staff to kind of get their feedback and takes, our strength and conditioning group, some sports science in there. And I think like just having the ability to like weigh everything out, come with some detailed information. That's the way the process will work for us. And then we'll have like honest conversation with Manny about what that looks like. And, kind of have to get into the season a little bit too. I think you can have these best laid plans and then the year comes and, maybe that MVP season for Manny is him playing, 162 and go from there. Maybe it's playing a little bit less. I think we're open to those conversations, see where it goes. So
Thank you.
David J.
AJ, just looking forward, been 6 months since Ethan Salas was on a baseball field in any meaningful way. A month ago, you thought he was going to be good for instructs and be out on the AFL. He got pulled back. Can you walk us through what's happened so far with rehab progression, what the setback was, and any anticipated next steps for him?
Yeah, I think again, like Ethan's doing well. He's starting to swing the bat and getting into baseball activity. It's not really a setback. I think it's just been us and our medical staff and doctors, and our specialists that we've talked to about Ethan. It's just being like very, very, I think just understanding he's 19 years old and, this is all about the next 10 years. So I think from our standpoint, it's been like, hey, I think from the medical team, we got to the fall league, and I think we were hoping that would be the time that he would get started to play. I think it's kind of like, hey, instead of being 92% sure, let's be 99% sure, and is it worth, like him playing 2 more weeks in the fall league, or what does that kind of start, jumping off point for him? Where does that begin? So it's not like anything's happened over the course of the last 5 or 6 months where it's like, hey, this was something that is different than what we were originally expecting. I just think it's more from taking the cues from our doctors that are saying, hey, they're kind of the ones that are like, look, this is when he starts. I think that point has moved just to, and I think as we've sat down and looked at it, it's like, is it really worth, if the doctors are saying, let's be, 2 more weeks can do him even more good and can, take the healing process to a more complete level. I think it's been more about that. So he's swinging the bat. Saw some video from it the other day. Talked to Riley about it. He looks good. He sounds good. He should be ready to go. Spring training. I don't think this off season's a no playing somewhere else, but I think we just want to make sure that, hey, this is we're listening to our doctors and everything he can, because it's about the next 10 years for him. He's 19 years old. So, that's more of the Ethan situation.
And are there specific either, sort of biometric markers or measurement markers that you're looking for to get from that 92 to 99% certainty?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, like I'm not going to go into all the details, but yeah, our doctors obviously, they have a lot of experience. They have imaging. I think they have the ability to look at different things, on film and also on the field and in the training room to kind of be like, hey, this is what we need to see to get him to that spot. And we're listening to all of that. They've got a good plan. They've been good at this. We've had a couple other players in the past that have had these stress reactions, and we've gotten them back to performing, and it hasn't been a long-term issue. I don't expect it to be for Ethan.
We have time just for a couple more questions. We'll go back to Jeff Sanders.
Hey, AJ, back to Schultz real quick. Were you made aware in season that he was having health issues and or facing death threats?
I mean, the death threat piece, yes. I mean, like, I think from the health standpoint, again, that's probably for Mike to comment on. And talk about. I think again, like, you get into these seasons and there's a grind. I think from that standpoint, but I think the health piece was something more over the course of the last few days when we talked about it. Just him kind of explaining how he felt and from a health standpoint. Mike's a guy it's all about that night, that day, grinding through, putting his energy into that. So he didn't share a lot of that, but the other piece you mentioned, I was aware of, yes.
And then are you inclined to leave Morion in the bullpen at this point?
I think similar to what we talked about with Mason Miller. I mean, again, I don't want to say, I think that's what the next couple of weeks is going to be for, is like sitting down with our group and our team and, having those conversations. I think a tremendous year for Adrian. It's been a lot of fun to be a part of and to watch. Seeing his progression. He's always been a super talent, and he's found a home there in the bullpen. So we'll obviously take all of that into consideration. I think he can do a lot of things. You have a lefty that's throwing 3+ pitches with command, and the ability to use him in different places in the game. I think that'll be a conversation as we get into it, similar to Mason, about what that looks like here for next year. But that's what I think the next couple of weeks and month will be about.
And then last one for me, Luis Campisano, 25 homers, 1,000 OPS at AAA. How would you assess the organization's ability to leverage that, especially as a right-handed bat at the big league level this year?
I mean, I think for Campy, it's again, it's when you have a team that's you're contending year in, year out for a playoff berth in a playoff situation, breaking in young players, which you have to do. I think that's always it's always part of the conversation and discussion. I think for Campy, I'm hoping that what was not his ability to go back to AAA, which guys don't have a chance to do all the time. He dominated the level. The reports coming out of AAA have been really good. So I'm hoping that as a baseball player that, while it wasn't at the big league level, that he had an opportunity to develop and grow this year. He's going to be in our mix for next year for sure. I'm hoping his experiences this year, are gonna help him overall as a player. And, I'm looking forward to seeing, he's a guy that kills it in the off season every year. I know he'll be ready coming into spring training. And, when we look at ways to get better and what that looks like, power bats that can catch, plus bats, guys that were, I don't know if he's going to be a AAA player of the year, but, did a lot of great things there. I think that's going to be a fun conversation for the next couple of weeks and months about what that looks like. And I think that'll be something that we look at when we look at our offense and how we continue to get better.
Was there a conversation about at least having him around September 1st, part of the roster, getting him involved before needing him in an emergency in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's always on the radar, and I think with the performance that he had at AAA and the reports that we talked about, he was there was always a lot of conversation about Campy, our catching situation, what's best. I think he obviously got up there at the very end, and I think would have been ready to help us, but it was definitely part of our conversations throughout the year, and definitely as we got to September.
Thanks.
Brandon Stone.
Hello there, AJ. Two questions for you. The first, I believe you mentioned there's an upcoming lunch between the two of you. Presuming that Mike either stays retired or if he ends up going somewhere else later in time, is there a window, an opening for him to come back, maybe even to his original job, the special assistant job?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I just kind of following Mike's lead on that front, and I mean, I think he was very clear over the course of the last week and the last few days that for him this was more about whether he wanted to manage or just kind of take a step back, and I think from a retirement standpoint. So I think all of us just respecting that. Again, I don't think any topic, to me at lunch, we'll always talk. We talk baseball and life and see what that looks like. But in terms of hearing what Mike said over the course of the last few days and the last week, I think he's pretty clear that for him this was either managing or not having not having that role that you mentioned.
Thank you. And my second one, you mentioned the fatigue and the hurt that he was feeling specifically during that wild card series in Chicago. And thinking back about some of the scenes we saw, the argument with Xander and then Schilt coming out being angry, and then what happened in the dugout after the game was over. I'm wondering your thoughts about the mental build of the team right now, and also what were your comments to the team? Was there any sort of disciplinary action after what happened in the dugout with the umpire?
Well, I mean, I think in that scenario, I viewed it more again. I think it's this is these are obviously highly charged moments, playoff games. It's the most stressful, the most intense. Obviously, it was a tough call, and you're gonna have in that moment in those situations, people are gonna be supercharged, and again, I think the league did what they needed to do and what they felt like was right. I haven't spoken with Bogey and Jose. I will here, I'm sure, over the course of the next couple of days, and just kind of talk to them about the discipline, fine and a suspension. And Iglesias is a free agent here coming up. But again, I think I'm the way our players handle themselves all year. What I've seen from our staff and players in terms of being professional, being on the field, being competitive, but understanding where that line is from a sportsmanship standpoint, I thought was super high all year. And obviously the last that last moment there was unfortunate in terms of the call and having some guys that care a lot, but I thought our team all year was handled themselves very well in those moments.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brandon.
With Jake?
AJ, I just wanted to follow up. You confirmed that Mike was facing some death threats. In your time in MLB, have you known that to be common? Obviously, that would be incredibly disheartening, but is that a common theme or uncommon?
Yeah, no, I think again, I think that's unfortunately kind of part of it. In terms of I've seen players, staff, other people in the organization. I'm not saying that unfortunately have to deal with that from time to time. So these are, again, I think it's unfortunate. I think our organization does a great job of handling that, and handling those situations, and the league does, but it is part of it, when you're in these profile positions, and it's not like it's something that I have not seen in the last 11 years. Like it's something that's come up with different players or staff members at different points in time. So
thanks, AJ.
All right, thank you, AJ, and thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate your time, and we will see you down the road soon. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks, AJ.
97 through the fans, commercial-free coverage of AJ Preller's press conference today was presented by criminal defense attorney David P. Shapiro. Facing criminal charges, trust David P. Shapiro criminal defense attorneys, helping clients regain control since 2010. Visit davidpshapirolaw.com. There are a lot of interesting things said in that press conference by AJ Preller. I'm Braden Surprenant. He's Frank Marchese. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. A couple of things that really stood out. I mean, they went a lot of different directions, a lot of questions, right? It's this end of season press conference mixed with a Mike Shildt retires press conference. So obviously a lot of things coming out of this press conference. I mean, you got to try to translate it from AJ Preller, which is always difficult to do. But when looking at everything that he said and looking at the situation with Mike Shildt, I mean, it's interesting enough. They're getting lunch today. And we'll see what that conversation is like. I don't know if we'll ever hear what those two particularly talk about. But I think this is the time for Mike Shildt where he wanted to get out on his own. I don't think there's anything else that you could get out of this. I don't think he was forced out. I think that a lot of people like to make up rumors and talk about conspiracies and everything like that. And so it went from, this is what Mike Shildt dealt with. Obviously, he was worried about his health concerns. Obviously, he was worried about, some other things. And, in this day and age of professional sports and the way everything's going towards, it's different. It's different. It's a different animal being a manager for a Major League Baseball team. So Mike Shildt retires. And now you got to find somebody else that's going to step in and be the new manager of this organization. Now, a couple of things too. I mean, they asked him multiple times, you think, AJ, you're going to be here past 2026? I think it's a fair question. I don't know how he's supposed to answer that. But according to a report from Dennis Lin earlier this morning, there is no contract negotiations on the table right now with AJ Preller and the San Diego Padres. So interesting to see how that plays out. To me, I think you got to get AJ Preller signed before you start talking about a manager. And there's a couple other things that were pointed out in this press conference. And, we're going to fully recap the press conference in the next hour. We want to hear from the fans out there. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Give us a call. What you got out of the press conference. But when you look at some things that AJ Preller said about the team, I thought it was very interesting. And AJ's smart. AJ picks his words carefully. When talking about the starting rotation next year, he started off saying Musgrove's going to be a great upgrade or a great, it's going to be great having him back next year to kind of start off this rotation. And Nick Pavetta's going to be back. And he's like, you got to talk about guys like Michael King and Dylan Cease, and they're obviously free agents. And he talked about Randy Vasquez and JP Sears. He talked about a lot of players, and he didn't mention Yu Darvish. Obviously, Yu Darvish has talked, and then Annie asked about you. He obviously was thinking about some things as the season was ending about whether or not he wants to come back, and it sounds like he's had conversations with AJ Preller. So I find that to be very interesting when talking about the starting lineup, when talking about the starting rotation. Interesting questions about Luis Camposano, and there's just so much to unpack. I mean, you had a 45-minute press conference recapping the end of the season, talking about Mike Shildt, what to expect from a new manager, and now off-season conversation. There's a lot that this is the team that just continually creates news. Continually creates news. Makes it the center of attention. So I look at everything that happened in this press conference, and I take away a couple of things. One, I don't think there's a guarantee that AJ Preller's under contract for a long time. I think he's confident in being here. I think he's comfortable being here. He has said how much he likes being here. But I think he left a lot of open-ended conversation about whether or not he is here full-time, which I find interesting. And until they officially extend AJ Preller, I think that's going to be a relative question because he was asked it a couple of times in this particular press conference. The other thing, obviously they're going to start looking for a manager now, and he kind of danced around whether or not he's going to go with an experienced manager or a brand new manager. And I think you have to do that when you're AJ Preller. I think you have to do that when you're AJ Preller because you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into one spot. I see a lot of people freaking out about the death threats. This is what sports is now. This is the society we created in sports with social media where this stuff happens all the time. It happens all the time. There's a lot of crazy people out there that say crazy things behind fake accounts and everything like that. I mean, when talking, we heard about it from Mike Shilton. Now he's discussed it. I mean, he talked about how exhausted he was from fans and the media. I mean, it's just a different animal that sports has become because of all of these things. And, I don't know, maybe legalizing vices is not the greatest idea. I would imagine most of the death threats are because of, I don't know, sports gambling. That's kind of a problem a lot. And sometimes you need a break from coaching. I mean, this is a grind. This is not like they don't just show up. They don't just show up. All the time and effort that you put into it. And when you have a season like that, and obviously, I mean, he looked a lot of times worn down, as mentioned by AJ Preller. You need a break. And a lot of these coaches need a break. I think it's shocking to a lot of people that a guy who's 57 years old needs a break. But you know what? It happens. Sometimes you get burnt out. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Shildt gets another job somewhere in a couple of years. Sometimes you need to just rest and recharge for a year. Take a year off. Take 2 years off. We saw it with Bruce Bochy. We saw it with Terry Francona. We've seen it with a lot of managers in Major League Baseball. We've seen it with a lot of head coaches in football. Sometimes you get burnt out on long seasons. But again, there's a lot of people that send death threats for a lot of different things. And I just will never understand that but people are crazy. That's why I'm not surprised that he got that. People are shocked. It's like, this happens all the time to a lot of people. Shouldn't be that shocking to you. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We're going to go through, talk about everything AJ Preller said, and recap what was a very long press conference to start the show. 11 o'clock hour when we come back. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. Braden Surprenant, you're live and local till 2. Setting us up with Sports Station. Fan.
Hey, it's
11 o'clock on the Braden Surprenant Show. All guests on 97 through the Fan. Join us via the David P. Shapiro Fan Hotline. Facing criminal charges. Trust David P. Shapiro Criminal Defense Attorneys, helping clients regain control since 2010. Visit davidpshapirolaw.com. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's number one sports station, 97 through the Fan. We are here each and every day. If you haven't done so already, give us a like on the YouTube page. Follow us on social media at B_SURP, at BSURP. You can follow Frank at FMarks with a Z, 324 on social media. Follow the show at B_SURP show on Twitter and X. Plus, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Music, Odyssey, wherever it may be. We are out there. You can listen to our show anywhere you get your podcasts. It's great. Also, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our YouTube page. There's 461 of you guys watching right now on our YouTube page. If you were looking to find this to try to get the press conference, and we air a lot, all the press conferences, most of them. We air most of them. Anything Padres related, we are the place to be. Instead of trying to search to find us on YouTube, you can hit the subscribe button. And guess what it does? It absolutely just makes it easier for you to find us. Makes it easier for you to find us. And it doesn't cost you anything. It's great. If you're a Padres fan or a San Diego sports fan and you don't subscribe to us on YouTube, I don't know what you're doing. It's very easy. For the 454 of you that are watching right now, on your phone or on your computer, there's a little bell next to our logo and name. Click that bell. You're subscribed. And then on the bottom on your app, when it says subscriptions, click that. As soon as you log on, it's going to be populated with all of our stuff. Super simple. Super simple. Give us a like on this YouTube page. We really appreciate it. A like on the video. It helps us out, pushes us out to other areas that don't have or don't know about 97 through the Fan. Also, if you haven't done so already, you can subscribe to our YouTube page at B_SURP, at BSURP. Subscribe. Makes it easier. Our YouTube page is strictly for the Braden Surprenant Show. It is at the first link in the description below. All right. We got all of that. Anyway, let's recap this press conference, Frank. There was a lot to get out of this press conference. There is so much information. I don't even know where to start. Let's start with what A.J. Preller started with. He opened today's presser expressing his appreciation for the job that Mike Shildt has done with the Padres. He said Mike put his entire being into the job, his blood, sweat, and tears, has a lot of respect for that. He says his biggest takeaway from the season was that it was a good year that ended with a hard-fought series against the Cubs. It wasn't the ending they wanted, but the bar has been raised since he arrived, and he's going to do everything he can to win the World Series. That's pretty stereotypical opening press conference conversations.
Yeah, standard stuff, I would say.
What is your biggest takeaway from all of this information about today's press conference with A.J. Preller?
Bloody Nora, there was a lot of it.
Yeah, there was.
I think kind of putting to bed the fact that this was Shildt who decided to walk away on his own. There was nothing internal.
I think that's 100%
struggle.
needs to be said and emphasized. Shildt walked away on his own. And it's not Frank and I kissing the Padres' ass. We're not, it's not, this is what the situation is. He walked away. He walked away. And you know what?
Fair play.
I don't blame the guy. It's not the way that it's not just managing anymore. I mean, it's dealing with a lot of extra stuff and being in the public eye, and it wears you down. And he got worn down, and he wants a break. And you know what? He could do that if he wants. So he's taking a break. He's going to retire. But like most coaches, sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes it's like, all right, a year off, you miss it, you want to get back into it. I could totally see him doing that. I don't think that suggests that, you know, he can't work with A.J. Preller. I don't think that suggests that he needed to walk away from this organization. It happens a lot with a lot of coaches that sometimes you get burnt out. And when you get burnt out, you need to take a walk away. That's better than him being burnt out and managing for another year and him not being fully into it, which I appreciate. So as Frank said, yes, I think that's been put to bed now. What else have you got? What else did you get out of this?
I mean, just the kind of surprise that it was. Like he said, he was surprised that the announcement came, but it wasn't shocking that the announcement came. So for him to sit there and say, we'll put together a list of guys who we think could manage this team. I think he already had something in mind. I don't see how you can have a manager talking to you, as the rumors say, as early as August about possibly wanting to do this without having a contingency plan already started and already getting set up. Now, with that being said, it's good to hear that the process is starting immediately, that it's beginning today, tomorrow, whenever, to get this in, because that is the first thing you're going to need to figure out before you can get to some of these free agents. You need to know, if I'm a player, I want to know who's going to be leading me into this next season. And it's hard to say, well, we would really love you to come here. We can pay you all the money you want, but we don't know who the manager is. We don't know who's going to be leading this ship.
They have
That's
to
a big
start
detractor.
that. They have to get that started as quickly as possible.
Yes.
So not surprised that AJ Preller said we've already started the process. And I would imagine, as you said, with AJ Preller saying that he was surprised but not shocked. I mean, you got to be thinking about long term all the time.
Yeah.
You know, after Mike took some time to recharge after the season, he informed the Padres on Saturday. AJ did not say he was aware of any internal conflict contributing to this. They're getting lunch today. I hope that's nice. But here's the thing. You mentioned like the players, but also at the same time, like the coaching staff.
Yeah.
The coaching staff's in limbo right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like it always is. This is how people don't understand how coaching staffs work when it comes to jobs. The coach that comes in brings his own staff because he needs guys that are going to be on his side, not people that want his job, not people from a previous regime. I mean, if I got hired to be a head coach somewhere, I'm bringing in guys that I can trust. I'm bringing in guys that share the same philosophies. I'm bringing in guys that I think are going to do a good job. I'm not inheriting a staff that had their guy walk away or had their guy fired. In this particular case, walk away. It's different. And just because you hire a new coach, I mean, there's some coaches on the staff that might not agree with said new coach, or they might not like said new coach or whatever. I mean, you have to find a good working relationship. You need everybody to pull the rope in the right direction. And so when you hire a new manager, that guy's going to want his own staff. There might be a couple of people that they bring back. I mean, you saw that with San Diego State when they hired Sean Lewis. He brought in his own staff. He kept a couple of guys. He kept Ryan Lindley, right? An alumni that could stay, like, and is from San Diego, knows how to recruit San Diego. He kept Demetrius Sumler. Guy's really good at recruiting San Diego. You can keep a couple of players or a couple of coaches. Now, the other thing, too, is if you're a guy like Ruben Niebla and you start getting called about managerial jobs, there's 8 of them out there. You got to take those. You can't be just waiting around because you don't even know if the new manager or whatever is somebody that's going to want Ruben Niebla on his staff. He might. We saw that with Mike Schilt, right? Everybody freaked out about that particular deal. And again, remember, they hired Ruben Niebla before they hired Bob Melvin. So it's not entirely impossible. But for Ruben Niebla, he needs to figure out what's going on in his life. All these coaches are going to start getting phone calls about other jobs, just like they were expected to do, even if Mike Schilt stayed, because of how successful they've been.
And just because he's under contract through 2027, that doesn't mean anything. If he gets an offer for a manager job and somebody wants to hire him, I would be willing to bet he's going to take it.
He's probably going to take it. Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. So that's part of the deal. I bet Ruben will probably try to, I wouldn't be surprised if he puts his name in the hat for the manager job. I think you have to interview those guys just as a courtesy anyway, just to see. I mean, you might as well cast the wide net that you need. And we'll see if they decide to ask other managers throughout baseball or ask permission to interview any other managers around baseball.
You're most likely going to see new base coaches next year.
You see a whole new
bench
staff.
coach, most likely
Yeah.
see a new hitting coach next year. Not because they did anything wrong, but because that's usually what happens when a new manager comes in. They bring in the guys that they can trust. For the most part, it's guys that were on their former team, like Matt Williams went pretty much everywhere with Bob Melvin.
Right.
Followed him around. That's going to be a thing that you're going to see. So no more Tim Leeper, no more David Macias. Most likely, there's a chance that they stay, but I would expect to see them not here on the corners next year.
I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, it's possible they could stay. I mean, some of these guys have made it through a couple of coaching changes, but that needs to be figured out. So you have to find a new head coach or new manager, and then he's got to bring in his own staff. And then that's what you got to roll with.
And Dark Day brings up a good point in the chat. It probably could have said it a little bit nicer, but hey, here we are. There is a chance.
His name is Dark Day, so
there is a chance that Ruben Abel does not want to be a manager. He's content with being a pitching coach, and if that's the case, great. That's absolutely fair play. But if there is the chance that he does want to be a manager, you have to be able to accept that reality that your pitcher whisperer there's a chance that he could go.
AJ Preller talked a little bit about the Padres organization and that many in the Padres org have been together for a long time. When asked about building on the organization's continuity in the wake of searching for a new manager, AJ said the goal is to have a manager that's here for 10 years, like many others in the organization. It's unfortunate that they have not had that ability yet, but that obviously would be the goal.
It's also where the state of the franchise is at the time you hire them that determines how long you're going to be here.
He says he loves the Padres in San Diego. He's proud to be here. When asked about his future with the org, entering the final year of his contract, AJ said he looks forward to the conversations with John Seidler about his future and that there's still work to do here. How much of that, how much was that answered in today's press conference about AJ Preller's future? I mean, I felt like it wasn't 100% reassuring, in my opinion.
No.
It wasn't 100% reassuring. And when we come back, we're going to talk about AJ Preller's future with the Padres. I mean, I don't know what he can say. He's obviously, it's out of his control. But if they were asking him and they were having contract negotiations, he would have said probably something a little bit better. We'll talk about it when we return. We do want to get your phone calls today, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Your reaction to the press conference, what AJ Preller said about the managerial search and about the roster for next year as we continue on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. You can't count on much, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Stream your local NFL game live every Sunday, all season long, starting at just $30 for your first year. That's like $250 a month. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant on a blustery Tuesday morning in America's finest city. Should be raining today, right?
Should be raining quite a bit today, actually.
Yeah, it's supposed to. It's supposed to rain today. I thought it was going to rain earlier today. Instead, it's just going to rain when I have to go coach football and sit in the rain. So that's fun.
Oops.
Yeah. I was told I cannot complain because somebody we know who coaches beach volleyball in the springtime, she said it always rains in the springtime during beach volleyball. So therefore, Frank, I'm not allowed to complain about one day in the rain.
Watch me.
I should bring an umbrella out to practice.
That would be smart, yes.
I would probably get charged a fine from our staff. But you know what?
I'll eat it.
It'd be worth it for $5 to stay dry.
I'll eat it.
I might have one in my car. Anyway, let's talk about this AJ Preller press conference. All right, we talked a little bit about the Mike Schilt deal. Do you feel, Frank, more or less confident that AJ Preller will be the general manager for the Padres past 2026 after this press conference? More confident, less confident?
About stagnant, honestly. I mean, you could say, yeah, it's worrying that he didn't give you too much to be hopeful for as far as that, other than, the bog standard answers. But what do you expect other than the bog standard answers? You expecting yeah, we've got a deal going. I'm going to be getting this much over the next couple. No, you don't expect that. You also don't expect no, I'm out of here. They've already said I'm out. So, I mean, he gave the answer that I honestly expected that he was going to give. So no, I don't feel different either way. I don't feel more or less confident about it because I got what I expected.
I feel slightly less confident. I mean, the other thing that made me slightly less confident was the fact that AJ Preller's future is like the Dennis Lynn article today in The Athletic, when talking about there's no current extension in place for Preller, there's no like real conversation about it. I mean, to me, that's kind of interesting.
It's not great.
And I think at this point in time, my opinion on the matter is until I'm going to sound like ball coach Mike McCoy. Until there's pen to paper on a contract, there's really nothing that we could. I mean, it's going to be like, all right, looks like he's on a 1-year deal here.
Exactly.
But I don't know how you can have a general manager on a 1-year deal and hire a new manager. I don't know how you can do that and say like we're a stable organization. I don't know how you can say that.
I mean, you can't even say it's an unstable organization because the last two managers left on their own accord. Schilt retired. Some of you I've saw it in the chat are saying he quit.
He didn't quit.
He retired. And Bob Melvin went to take his quote unquote dream job. So it's not that, and the managers before that were during rebuilding periods who were never going to stay long term.
It opens up the door for this to be like, I don't know. I don't know.
Circus.
When you're a manager, when you're a guy that's interviewing for the job, you want stability. Of like the people, like the guy that makes the decision on whether or not you still have a job is only there for a year, and he's the one that brings you in. Does that give you a sign of confidence as the person that's going to be the manager? Unless you are somebody that is just like Andy Green was, so desperate to be a manager. Unless you're hiring somebody brand new that's never done it before, that's just waiting for a chance, and so therefore doesn't care about it. But if you're trying to get somebody that's a veteran manager that's been there and done it before, that has the experience, there's not a lot of guys that are going to sign on for, okay, well, we don't know if the guy that's in charge of whether or not my job is still here is going to be here or not. I'm just saying. It makes me a little uneasy.
Yeah, as it should. I mean, as far as a manager should get at least 2 years, period. Because one of the 2 years could be a fluke. I think
it should be
honestly.
a minimum 3, but in this day and age of sports, people want World Series tomorrow. You see it in college football all the time. The unfortunate thing is teams or coaches that have flipped organizations around fast make it even worse that everybody thinks that their particular organization can get flipped fast. Now, this is not one of those flipping of an organization, though. No. They already know they can win. To me, I think you have to get a minimum of 3-year deal for a lot of managers.
I agree. And that's
why would anybody sign on for a 1-year or 2-year deal?
There's unless you're desperate.
Yeah, unless
desperation.
You're desperate to finally show that you could be a manager.
And then what happens if it turns into an Atlanta Braves of this year, where just everybody gets hurt for long periods of time? You're screwed. You shot yourself in the foot.
100%.
Because everyone's going to blame you. You're a 1-year manager. You're a lame duck. You're the scapegoat. Boom. Out. Done.
AJ Preller talked a little bit about that. The search for a new manager will begin today in terms of putting a list of candidates together, etc. But there's no deadline to find a new manager. I bet you he has already written down multiple names on a list.
Yeah, especially if the reports are true that Schilt was talking to Preller about this possibly happening in August. Preller's too smart to not have a contingency plan already in the works.
Yeah. He said that Mike Schilt considering retirement wasn't discussed during the season. When they got to Chicago for the playoff series after the regular season was the first time the two discussed that as a possibility. As soon as that is a possibility, a general manager is immediately starting to think about
absolutely
how do I replace this guy?
Yep.
Nobody asked AJ Preller who he was on the phone with after the wild card series loss, by the way. That should have been question number 1, in my opinion.
Well,
in my opinion. AJ Preller said it was an attractive managerial job due to the roster, ballpark, atmosphere, city of San Diego. When asked if the lack of clarity about his future could be a deterrent for a potential manager, I think that's a valid statement.
Absolutely. 100%.
We all know how good the job is. It doesn't need to be sold. The job is a good job. You're taking over a ball club that has made the playoffs for the last 6 years. You're taking over a ball club that has people in San Diego show up and show out each and every night at Petco Park. You're taking over a ball club that, this is the number one team in town, the only real team in town. I mean, sure, you got other teams out there, but this is the number one team in San Diego. San Diego's a beautiful place to live. You got star athletes, and you have ownership that spends money. They spent money. So it makes sense. Like, this is a good job. The only deterrent to me is we don't know if the guy hiring me is under contract for a long period of time. And today didn't really answer those questions. And to be honest with you, they will never be answered until there is clarity from the organization in terms of, like, AJ Preller signed a contract extension. What you can't do, though, in my opinion, is this can't drag on throughout the season.
No.
This can't drag on throughout the season. I mean, this needs to be taken care of quickly. And if I was the org, I mean, my timeline would be get the extension done with Preller. It doesn't even have to be a long time. I mean, you could give him a 2-year deal. You could give him a 2-year deal. Give him a 2-year deal, sign the manager for 3 years. And then you could just let it play out. And if you need to fire the guy, then you can fire the guy. But I'd give him a 2-year contract. So he gets 2026, 2027, which is going to be a shortened season, almost inevitable at this point, and 2028. I think that's fair.
Yeah, give the manager the same terms, so this way they both run out at the same time.
You give Preller a 2-year deal, 2-year extension. You sign you let him hire the manager. He gets a 3-year deal, and then you reevaluate at that point in time of where you're at. You can even fire him before the last year.
I think the Padres are in a position where they have to re-up Preller.
Have to.
Because if you don't re-up AJ Preller after these last couple of years and what he's been able to do in the trade deadline, free agency market's a different thing, but what he's continued to be able to do with the draft, to be able to do what he's done at the trade deadline, it is indefensible to not extend this guy, just let his contract run up. It will raise so many questions about the organization and what is going on behind the scenes. If this guy who has done what he has done, got the players that he's done, worked the deals that he has been able to work to get guys like Ramon Laureano, like Mason Miller, who are going to be here for a while, to get those guys in and that not be enough to keep his job, that is going to raise so many alarm bells as far as looking for the next general manager, because that shows there's something up with this organization that you can't ignore, that even when you're doing what AJ Preller has done, it's not enough to keep your job.
I think it's bad news if they don't. They have to re-sign him. They have to extend him. They have to. Somebody's like, they don't have to. Yeah, they do. Because here's the risk that you take. Okay, you take the risk. So right now, under AJ Preller, they have been a consistent winner of making the playoffs. Correct?
Yep.
I would say that making the playoffs for the last 6 years is consistent.
He tried a couple things at the start of his regime that didn't work, but once he found his niche, he figured out what he wanted to do. It has been all upward trending from there.
Correct. So you know that you're going to get you're going to get a team that is consistently going to compete for a playoff spot, which is good. What you want is to win championships. Everybody's like upset. Like, we got to win championships. We got to get us to the next level, get us to a World Series. The risk you take by not extending AJ Preller or letting him go, which a lot of people think is, are you willing to take a step back and bring in a guy that doesn't give you consistent winning? That's the risk you take. That's the risk you take. It's the same thing with Penn State firing James Franklin. James Franklin was like winning 10 games a year for 12 years. But he can't win the big one, so we got to find somebody that's going to win us the big one. And a lot of teams take a lot of schools, a lot of teams take a massive step back, and then they are constantly going through guys to get them back to just winning consistently. That's the risk you're willing to take. If you're willing to take that risk, go for it. Get rid of the guy.
And as far as who might be interested in him, take a look at a Baltimore, maybe, who always draft very, very well. It's one thing that AJ Preller has done consistently well here as well, is draft very, very well. Now, they won't see those draft picks up in the major leagues, but Baltimore is a team that could look to snap him up very, very quickly. Chicago, the Cubbies might look to snap him up very, very quickly. Seattle, there are teams out there that will go after him the second they get any sort of word that he is not going to be here.
I think this is a fair way of evaluating whether or not the player, the manager, the GM is worth it for your franchise. This is the decision you have to make. Let me ask you if this is fair. Are you willing? Do you think your team would be better off if insert player here is no longer on your team and on the Dodgers? Are you okay with that? Seriously.
No.
Who's the team that you hate the most? The Dodgers.
Yeah.
Right? So let me ask you this question. If, and this is like your value. I played this game a little bit. Like, if Luis Arraez signed with the Dodgers, are you worried? I'm not. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not worried. I wasn't worried about Ha-Seong Kim either. Ha-Seong Kim signs with the Dodgers. You worried? No, absolutely not. No. You could start talking about other players, though. Jackson Merrill signs with the Dodgers. You worried? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Got problems there.
Fernando Tatis Jr. signs with the Dodgers. Are you upset? You worried about that?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So this is all the same questions that you ask when it comes to trading players away. I would honestly, if Xander Bogaerts became the starting shortstop for the Dodgers, I'd be worried. I'd be like, all right, that's great.
Yep.
They can move Mookie Betts back to right field. I think that doesn't help the Padres.
No, no.
So you could go through all the players. If AJ Preller became the general manager or worked in the scouting department for the Dodgers, would you like that?
No.
No, I
Not
think
at
that
all.
would definitely hurt the San Diego Padres. So if you're not willing to allow him to be the general manager or work for the Dodgers in any type of capacity, then he's probably better off being your guy. Is there anybody out there that you think would be better than AJ Preller right now? If you have names, I'd love to know. I'd love to know what the names are. Tell me these people that you think are going to do better than what AJ Preller has done. I don't think you're going to give me a lot of names. That's it. It's easy just to be like, we got to get rid of this guy. But
that should be a rule on the show.
What?
If you're calling for someone to be fired, you have to give a name to replace him.
I need a name. Yeah, replace him with what?
You have to give names.
Have to give names. I mean, I don't even understand what the trade conversation is in our YouTube chat right now. But I mean, a lot of people think like, "Oh, this person did a great job." I mean, I've had like 100 people say like how much Bruce Bochy would be like the best ever. It's like, no, stop it. I don't know how many times I have to answer people that say like, "Oh, Trevor Bauer would be great in this." Shut up. No, he wouldn't. Crazy.
Didn't he just give up 5 runs in an inning against some Japanese corporate team?
I think he's done so poorly now recently, we haven't had to listen to that anymore. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Give me an idea. I mean, people want AJ Preller gone. I don't know who you could get that's going to be better.
So, okay, hold on. Joshua, we'll get to his comment in a minute. We'll get to his comment on the other side of the break.
We'll get to that comment. Plus, what is AJ Preller looking for in a managerial candidate? Somebody experienced, somebody brand new. He answered that in the press conference. We'll talk about that when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 11:40. We're going to be playing some hits from the press conference today. So much to get to on this A.J. Preller press conference from earlier today. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show. Live and local each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's number sports station 97 through the Fan. The rain has arrived, Frank. The rain is here.
You mean to tell me I don't have to build tomorrow's show either? This is awesome.
That's very possible.
It's a great gig here this
Yeah,
week.
it is.
Yeah,
I just
it
every
is-
time
it is bucketing down.
You
now.
got to find the clip of Scrapey going, it's raining really hard outside.
I think I found it the last time. Hold on.
If you can find that, that would be great. It was one of the funniest things I've ever heard on this radio station. He just got distracted by the rain. But you know what? That's what happens in San Diego. It doesn't rain a lot. All of a sudden, water starts falling from the sky and people freak out.
No kidding.
Let me know if you find that or not.
Yeah, just give me a second here.
All right. A lot of things we need to discuss here about this press conference. We got a lot of clips now that we have posted on 97 through the Fan on social media. We're going to talk about the conversations he's potentially had about contract extensions. And then also, A.J. Preller talked a little bit about earlier today on what he's looking for in a manager. It sounds like it might be a case-by-case basis. But before that, let's get to your phone calls reacting to what happened in the press conference today. We'll start out with Kevin in Chula Vista. Kevin, what's going on, man?
Hey, Braden, can you hear me okay?
Got you well, loud and clear.
Okay, yeah, we just got in through the rain and the wind here, and all hell's breaking loose outside. Anyway, what I found most, I guess, disappointing, disturbing about the presser was the revelation about the death threats. And that saddens me as a human being. I think that we need to talk about this more. And because we need to, as a society, come together and just, I think, put an end to this. We've got this happening too much, too often, too many places. We didn't have this issue 20 years ago. Why is that? We didn't have the social media. We didn't have the gambling. You put those two things together, those are recipes for disaster. And I don't know what the chat rules are for your room. Tell you what, if I'm running chat, you're going to put your real name out there. You're going to put your real email and contact information. That'll put a slowdown to a lot of this stuff. I feel terrible for Mike that if that in fact is happening or was happening, totally unacceptable. There needs to be an absolute admonition to the psychotic people that are out there that need to go get help. There's just no reason for any of this. It's sports, for God's sakes. It's just fun and games. And if you can't get through it because of your gambling addictions or whatever the hell else is going wrong in your mind, then we got issues that are bigger than we know.
Yeah, Kevin, that's it's an unfortunate where we're at in society right now, if that's the thing. I mean, I honestly, Frank, and I appreciate the phone call to Kevin. I'm honestly shocked at how shocked people were hearing that information.
I mean,
do you not understand what it's like to be in the public eye?
D3 kickers get death threats. Like,
Yeah.
what are we talking about here?
There's many people on our station that get some nasty things sent to them. Some nasty things. I just like it's just the reality of social media. I'm not saying it's right. It's not. But people are crazy. People are crazy. I mean, there have been a lot of people that have DM'd me where I am a little fearful of like what's coming around the corner. It's part of the gig. People are nuts. I mean, I got people that like DM crazy stuff to me about how I vote in the top 10 for high school football. I'm talking about high school football. That is also crazy. Crazy. It is crazy. But that's where we're at. I don't know how you fix that problem. I really don't. I really don't know how you fix that problem. But I am honestly shocked at the amount of people who are shocked that Mike Schilt got death threats. I am shocked that people are they don't understand, like, this is happening on a daily basis for all of these athletes and these coaches. This is like normal.
And that's also bad on us to say, because seriously, this is when you stop becoming shocked by it, when you become numb to it, that means it's become normalized. And
Yeah.
that means people think it's okay to do.
Right.
It's not. It absolutely is not. And Kevin's not wrong. When people become emboldened on social media, they don't have to use their real name. They don't have to use their real face. People will say some wild stuff when they know that repercussions are not going to come their way.
In multiple facets, right? In multiple facets. Yeah, people are crazy. I haven't yet to get a death threat, but I've gotten a lot of things very close to them, and I imagine it's only a matter of time. But that's something that, like, we have to deal with. And that's something that we're at a lower level. That's something that these guys have to deal with on a daily basis. On a daily basis. It's I don't want to say it's not important. It is important. It's crazy. I mean, it's crazy. But I don't know how you fix that problem unless you just, like, shut down social media. Because there's got to be bad eggs that ruin a lot of different things. It's a good question. How do we know your real name's Frank?
I know who that is.
That's even better.
And I know that he knows me. So
833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Sean in San Diego, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, Sean?
Hey, Braden.
What do we got today?
Obviously, I guess I got two comments. Number one, obviously that's shocking. I think especially shocking for San Diego, although, you know, as you said, it's that time. Can you imagine the managers in New York and the managers in Philadelphia and what they're getting? That's got to be 10 to 100 times what our head of staff gets.
Yeah.
It's just got to be, I mean, their fans are much, much more. Oh, even Dodgers. Can you imagine the Dodgers? Anyway, that was just part of it. But the other thing, I guess, and this goes back to when Mike first came to work. AJ is very good at one aspect of his job. I think we all know that he meddled a lot in the last three managers. And as much as Schilt says, no, I get along with AJ fine, I would be fascinated to find out how much the stress between AJ and the front office, and AJ always wanting his 2 cents in there, may have played a little bit in that, this is just creating an environment that's tougher to work in. And I really think AJ wants to be the manager someday. I think he thinks he can put a team together and he's the best man to run it. And I would not be shocked to see him try it for a year, although if he screws it up, he's destroyed his entire career. So he's very good at one aspect of what he does, but I think he doesn't always know when to maybe back off and let someone else do what they're supposed to do.
I think it's a fair call, Sean. I mean, we've heard a lot of different things about how he's not easy to work with. I think obviously the people that worked with him for a long time find it different. I think it's a unique way. It's not for everybody. Like, there's a lot of people out there that I can't work with. There's a lot of people out there I can work with. There's a lot of people out there that can't work with me and vice versa. I mean, there's a lot of oil and vinegar when it comes to work relationships. But I just, from what Mike Schilt has said, I don't think you could really, I mean, you asked the question because the last couple of guys leaving after 2 years for relatively the same thing, the question pops in your mind. But you got to go with what they told you. I mean, they don't think that. I mean, based on what we were told about how Mike Schilt viewed a lot of things with the fans and the media and just being a manager in general, I think you could say he needed a break. But it's definitely a fair question when you start seeing a lot of the signs of, like, well, this is the second time this has happened now. I don't think it's be the case. I think it's more of a coincidence, but it's still a fair question to ask. Brad and Escondido, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, Brad?
Braden, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. What's going on?
Good. Hey, I missed the presser, sorry, but Ruben Nebla, Is he a serious candidate for that? And then you move Skip in and maybe Loretta as the bench coach?
He didn't really specify too much on like specific names, which you knew was going to be the case with AJ Preller. I would imagine he is probably an internal candidate to look at. When listed in the Dennis Lynn article today in The Athletic, it said Ruben Niebla, highly respected internally, strong rapport with the pitchers, is a potential replacement for this job, as well as AJ Ellis and Scott Service and Phil Nevin, some other potential internal and external candidates for the Padres. They mentioned Ryan Flaherty, who was part of the organization. The only thing that was not mentioned, and again, none of these names were mentioned in the press conference, but that was mentioned in Dennis Lynn's article. The only one that was said not expected to be a serious candidate, despite fan nostalgia, is Bruce Bochy. I think we could put the Bruce Bochy thing to bed. We told you yesterday, but I think we could put that thing to bed. Scott and Tirasana, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, Scott?
You know, I tell you, it's really a shame what's going on with this world. I'm a firm believer that the internet is going to be the downfall of this world with these fools and these metal midgets out there hiding behind their little obscure whatever they are and making these threats. It's just disgusting. You know, like Kevin said, put your name out there, be a man. You know, I have to tell you, Braden, it's the thing that I thought about after hearing Mike Schultz step down is if he goes out and gets another job this year, then it's a huge indictment on AJ Preller because he's losing managers right and left. And obviously a couple of them needed to go, but I'm gonna keep an eye on it because if he resurfaces in the next year, I think it's because him and AJ or there's some problem with AJ and the managers in this ball club. Something is wrong. You shouldn't just be losing managers like this. They know what they're getting into. He's been in baseball a long time, and maybe at 54, whatever he is, 55, he is tired. But I think Braden, if he goes out and gets another job this year, that's a huge indictment on AJ Preller. Nobody wants to work for him.
I think it's a good point, Scott. If that happens this particular offseason, right? If he goes and flips and immediately starts working for another organization this offseason, that's a serious red flag.
Don Mattingly.
Exactly. Frank brought up Don Mattingly yesterday. That is a serious red flag. If it takes a year or two, I don't think it's as much of a red flag, to be honest with you. You see that a lot with a lot of guys. Was it Bruce Bochy? I mean, was that a red flag with the Giants? Maybe it was. Decided to go back and manage the Texas Rangers. Terry Francona, guy that stepped away for health issues, then came back. I mean, I feel like if he did it, if Mike Schilt gets a new coaching job in any type of capacity, and he is at somebody's spring training that's not the Padres in the springtime, that would be a massive red flag to me for the Padres, but mostly for AJ Preller. If he doesn't, then okay. I think I think it's fair for him to take years off. I mean, I see that all the time with coaches at other levels. They need a year off. Sometimes you get burnt out. And I know it's different at the high school level. I mean, I've seen my dad do that 3 times. Needs a break. Sometimes you need a break. It's a lot of time and effort and everything like that in the job. It's a high stress, taxing job. And unfortunately, the death threats and all that other stuff that Mike Schilt talked about comes with the territory of the job. I'm not saying it's right or justified because it's not, but people are crazy and do crazy things. That's part of the deal. So it'll be interesting to see what Mike Schilt does the next handful of years here. I mean, if he stays retired, I mean, good on him. He's got a beach house in North Carolina, spend some time with his family, everything like that. What is AJ Preller looking for in a new manager? We'll go back and talk about it in the noon lunchtime hour. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant, getting ready for hour 3 on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego Sports Station 97 through the Fan.
San Diego, it's time to fire it up. From the beaches to the ballparks, from the Gaslamp to North County, no one knows America's finest city like he does.
You can't just punt on a Manny Machado prime years.
He's a fourth-generation San Diegan, born and raised in the heart of this community. Passionate, opinionated, and always bringing you the real talk on your teams, your city, and everything in between.
Braden totally knows his stuff. He's ready for the next step. That guy is good.
Live and local, it's the Braden Surprenant Show.
But I think Braden's one of the up-and-coming young stars in the media game in San Diego.
Now, here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
Lunchtime hour on 97 through the Fan. You got to get something like warm today. Today's a good day for like chili, Frank.
I'm waiting for the tacos. Where are the damn tacos at?
It's a good point. It's still raining outside?
Wow, it is raining really hard. This is being cool here on the Entercom Empire, so if you're sitting out there.
What?
Poor Scrappy, we found it. Did you add that to our drops?
No, but I know
that needs to be added to our drops.
Now.
Add it to the
I know
drops.
exactly where it is.
Add it to the drops. Find the cart number, add it to the drops. Every time it rains, I want to hear that. I want to hear that.
I think we should get the permission from the guy who spouted it first.
You know what? It's in the system.
It is in the system.
And our boss, Adam, said that he actually told us where it was. One of the times. He said it's in there. It's definitely in there. Gave us the motivation to find it. Oh, I like that. Bidia weather from Rod. Money. Later on this afternoon, I got to go coach football in the rain, and then I'm going to go watch West Kentucky play FIU at Pitchers today.
Good luck with the nightmares.
Zombieland. Adam Klug said, if it's in the system, it's fair game to use.
There you go.
I agree. If it's in the system, it's 100% fair game to use.
Did anyone else
What's
see
the weather report, Frank?
Raining sideways.
Wow, it is raining really hard. This is being cool here on the Entercom Empire, so if you're sitting out there.
What?
Tony's reaction. What?
What are the words you're using? Right
BDA. It's a BDA day. Love it. All right, let's talk about some things. Let's go back and play some stuff from the press conference from earlier today. All right. AJ, here's a couple of things. So with the timeline for me for hiring a manager, and we've discussed this a little bit more off air. And I'm starting to go with I got a favorite of who I want to be the manager now. And I've seen the list. I've seen a lot of the lists. But the timeline to me is you have to extend AJ Preller, in my opinion, especially if you want to bring in somebody from outside. You have to extend AJ Preller. That is number one. After that, then you can bring in your manager. And you got to make sure your coaching staff is set, and then you can focus on off-season moves. That's kind of the plan. So, Dennis Lin asked at the press conference today if he has had AJ Preller, if AJ Preller has had conversations with Padres ownership about a contract extension and if he expects to be here beyond 2026. Here's what AJ Preller had to say.
You spoke about this generally a little bit earlier, but have you had conversations with ownership about a potential extension for yourself? And do you expect to be here past 2026?
I mean, to me, like, again, I think like in terms of, my situation and the contract, obviously that'll be between me and ownership and, what that process looks like. And again, I think, we'll have those conversations here going forward, but, I think from, myself and the rest of the baseball ops group, a lot of confidence and faith in like our roster, what we're trying to do, what we're trying to build. And that's going to be a big emphasis and focus here over the course of the next few months from our end, is putting a championship team on the field for next year and the future.
Do you view that though as maybe a concern for potential your next manager who might not know, exactly what the future or the organization future of baseball ops is?
I mean, I think it's a really attractive job. I mean, I think it's obviously we, play in a beautiful ballpark. We've get, everybody talks about the atmosphere has been created by the fans of San Diego. You get 3.5 million fans coming to the ballpark, year in, year out. It's as good an atmosphere as there is in the game. I think it's like I mentioned, it's a great organization. We produce players, we put talented rosters on the field. We go to the playoffs. I think it's the challenge of winning a World Series in a city that hasn't done it before. And we have some phenomenal players and staff. So it's I can only tell you, like, just in the last few hours, you get a lot of people reaching out. I think I think from my eyes, it's an attractive position and job, and I can tell from the interest that's been coming in and then some of the conversations that have happened here in the last few hours, like it's viewed that way in the baseball community.
That's AJ Preller talking a little bit about his status with the team, as well as, is that a deterrent if he doesn't have a contract extension for a potential candidate to come in and be the manager of the San Diego Padres? He goes on to say, we'll see how fast Frank is on Twitter here. AJ Preller was asked about some of the internal managerial candidates and how valuable their existing knowledge of the organization is for them as candidates. Before we talk about outside candidates, let's talk about inside candidates.
We have some strong internal candidates, and I think that'll be one thing that they bring to the table, is the knowledge of, the organization, but it's definitely our roster, our players, our people. So I think there's a lot of positives to that. But I'm also anxious to get a sense from some people from outside the organization, to get a feel, like, with a fresh perspective and what that looks like, and their take from outside. So again, I don't think it has to be this way. It's this is going to be a must, for us as we go down this, as we start the process, at least maybe as we get into it, something that really starts to pull on us, that this is super important. But we're going to talk to, again, like I mentioned, we have others that are being asked about in other spots in the league, that are internal candidates right now. So we have a strong group that we're going to talk to that have had those experiences, and then we'll also do our best to talk to people that are outside the organization and get maybe a different perspective there.
AJ Preller during his press conference earlier today. Full thing is on YouTube on our channel at B_SURP on YouTube, or at 97 to the Fan SD on YouTube as well. So that's the internal candidates. In terms of what traits AJ Preller is looking for in a manager, here's what AJ had to say.
And I think starting with, just baseball knowledge and content. I mean, I think, like, somebody that obviously, like, knows the game very, very well, is always part of it. I think somebody that can, relate to people and players, and, has the ability to be honest with players, but, understands that, the way to deliver messages may be different for different guys. I think somebody that really, at the end of the day, like, is valuing the organization. It's all about the organization and trying to win championships, and embraces that. I think somebody that embraces expectations. I think that's a real thing in this market right now. It's like, it's a cool thing to be a part of, is looking up, and, like, a really good fan base that now, like, yeah, like, the expectation is go win a World Series, and somebody that embraces wanting to do that for the first time in this situation. So I think somebody that enjoys being part of a good baseball group that loves to talk the game, and ultimately, I think that person's gonna have a lot of say. I think we try to do that as a baseball team, to give the manager a lot of say, and, hey, remember to use your feel, and you're here for a reason, etc. But somebody that's looking to gather a lot of information, take in different inputs, and then make some big decisions and important decisions for our group. Those are some things, I think, off the top that we're going to be looking for.
AJ Preller's obviously put a list together at this point. He mentioned in the press conference that the first that he had conversations of Mike Shildt potentially retiring was in the wild card series against the Cubs. As soon as that moment happens, you're putting a list together as a general manager. I mean, you're just you got to be 2 steps ahead. And AJ Preller has been 2 steps ahead a lot. And again, as mentioned before, the Padres, I think, in my opinion, Padres need to extend AJ Preller before hiring a new manager. That's the deal. Here's the other part of this that we didn't even discuss yet. Okay, because some people are like, AJ Preller needs to go at the end of the next year. Here's the conversation that needs to happen. Before you hire a new manager, or before you let this guy hire a new manager, the question is AJ Preller the right man to be the general manager of the San Diego Padres, yes or no? If the answer is no, then why keep him another year? Just start from the beginning right now. That's the conversation. I don't know why, as an organization, if you didn't believe in this guy and didn't think he was going to be the general manager for the next couple of years, why you would then allow him to hire another manager coming up next if he's only going to be here for 1 year. I don't know why you would do that. And if you're going to, let's just say, and he talked about, everybody's going to be part of this conversation of hiring a manager. If you're not going to allow him to hire a manager, then why are you even keeping this guy? I mean, those are the questions that need to be asked before you start making some major decisions. I think those are fair questions. He's either the guy that you think is good enough for the job, and since knowing that information, you give him a contract extension, or you don't want him to be in charge of the team for more than just 1 year. And at that point, why even keep him employed? Just cut bait, hire a GM, have him hire a new manager, and let's just roll with this thing. Those are the questions that need to be answered before you start hiring a new manager. Frank, I think that's a fair question to ask.
100%. Absolutely.
This is the timeline to me. Organizationally, the Padres need to figure out whether or not they believe in AJ Preller or not. That is conversation number one without AJ Preller. If the answer is we believe in AJ Preller, then the next move is we got to get this guy a contract extension and we got to get it done now. And how many years you want to give him, that's the amount of years that you're going to give your brand new manager. That's what you're going to do with that. Give him a 2-year deal. Give the manager a 3-year deal. Simple. Then you can redo everything at the end of that. But if you don't believe that AJ Preller is going to be the general manager long term, or you have doubts, why even keep him right now? Just cut him loose, cut bait, and let's move on.
And what should be really concerning, the longer and longer you go without a contract extension means should mean the longer you go without finding a manager, which means the worse your manager is going to be.
Correct. As much as there's no timeline for this, there's kind of a timeline.
There is a timeline for this.
I think there's a simpler approach. We'll talk about it when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show. All guests on 97 The Fan join us via the David P. Shapiro Fan Hotline. Facing criminal charges, trust David P. Shapiro criminal defense attorneys helping clients regain control since 2010. Visit davidpshapirolaw.com. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show. We are live. We are local each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the Fan. We're going to talk a lot of football this week, but a lot of news with the Padres. Can't stop talking about.
Had a couple of small, tiny things happen.
The gift that keeps on giving. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973 if you want to join the show. We're going to get to one of your phone calls, and then we're going to get to what I think the Padres should do at this point. Let's get out to Steve in Poway. Steve, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, Steve?
Hey, good morning.
Morning. Afternoon now.
Just listening to what everybody has to say about Schultz leaving, and I have a complete different perspective of it, which I truly believe in. He's never going to say this. I think he's been with the organization for 4 years. He's seen these same players for 4 years. We're tied down to most of them. I really believe that he's at a point. He got to a point after this year and said, I can't win a world championship with these guys. We're stuck with the guys. Manny Machado is proven that he chokes under pressure. Fernando Tatis has had nothing but problems with getting, clavicle problems, drug problems, lawsuit problems. It seems like he's lost kind of his focus. Cronenworth, 0 for the series. Bogart barely, gets his job done. And you're stuck with these guys. And I think he looks at this and goes, yeah, I got them this far, but you know what? I can't get them any farther with what we got. The guys that came into the trade deadline did their job. The guys that they're paying all the money to didn't do their job. I've watched them not do their job now for 4 years, and I got to move on. I don't think I can get them to a World Series win, maybe to the playoffs.
I mean, that's one perspective, Steve. The more I hear Mike Shildt talk, the more I hear from people that talk to Mike Shildt, the more I believe he's just tired of being a manager. At the beginning, I didn't think so. When I found out the news on Monday, I'm like, what? There's no way he just decided to just stop managing. And then the more he spoke about it, and the more he talked to people that I know, and the more that he has spoke, I'm like, yeah, he just doesn't want to do it anymore. I think a lot of people just don't want to believe reality sometimes because they have set narratives about certain things. I mean, obviously, the players that Steve mentioned didn't get the job done. Some of that stuff is true. I mean, not all of it's true, but some of it is. But just because the answer is not what you want it to be doesn't mean it's not the correct answer. Sometimes there's not more to decisions. Sometimes there's not more to a lot of things. Sometimes there's not reading of the tea leaves of certain situations. He said he was tired of doing this job. I believe it. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Lou and Lucadia, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, Lou?
Hey, guys. That's good therapy listening to you about all this after getting shocked. I got a lot of sympathy for Mike. I was a Radio Shack manager for 17 years back in the day, and it was a 6-day-a-week, 10-hour-a-day job. You kissed your family goodbye in October and reacquainted yourself in January after Christmas was over. And there was a lot of parallels to baseball in the fact that it was an organization didn't care what your color of your skin was, your education level, any of your personal habits. But if you got thrown out in that field and performed, you got promoted, you got the raise when people who seemed more qualified than you didn't. So, I didn't want to be a manager anymore after 17 years. So I just said later, and I left it. It was good money and great to run your own business without having a dollar of your own money in there, and you were remunerated very, very well. So God bless Mike Shildt, and thanks for going through all these options so I don't have to. Thanks a lot, guys.
I appreciate it, Lou. Yeah, sometimes you're done, man. So burnout is real. Even if it's like the coolest job ever. Even if you're making good money, sometimes you're just like, I'm done. I just don't want to do this anymore. It happens. Especially you have to do things at a high level. I mean, sometimes the grind isn't fun anymore, you know? So like it's not, I don't blame Mike Schilt. I mean, I totally believe everything that he has said. And I wouldn't be surprised if he takes 2 years off or a year off and then wants to get back at it. I see that all the time. There's nothing like hidden beneath the scenes. Frank, I feel like a lot of people want to have their narratives proven, so they're trying to, make the reality into something that's not, to try to prove like, hey, see, look, I'm right about this and that. That's what a conspiracy theory is.
Exactly. 100%. It's sometimes the simplest answer is going to be the answer. And sometimes the answer that is being put out there is it's just the answer. No matter how badly you want or you're trying to connect dots to make it seem like it's something else, sometimes it's just the answer. People can tell the truth. It is possible. It has happened before. It is okay for that to just be the reason. Just because it's not exciting, just because it doesn't make a talking point work, doesn't mean that it's not right. Doesn't mean that it's not the answer. Doesn't mean that that's not his reasoning behind doing it.
Yeah, maybe he wants to spend time with his family. I mean, he probably didn't see his family at all during the regular season.
What kind of loser would want to do that?
I know. I mean, but seriously, like, it's not always a puzzle. It's not always a puzzle. There's not always like more meaning. I feel like it's everybody's trying to break down their, like it's English class in high school. It's like, well, what did this actually mean in Catcher of the Rye? I don't know. What did this actually mean in the Streetcar Named Desire?
Critical thinking is good.
It is good, but sometimes
it's not necessary. Sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes.
He got to a point where it wasn't worth it anymore. And he turned out, and here's the other thing too, like to anybody that said he was like forced out, why would he like do something for the Padres organization and leaving $2 million on the table? Why would you do that? Why would you like give in to somebody trying to force you out that's going to cost you $2 million? It's just, not everything is a conspiracy. He doesn't want to do it anymore. That's okay with me. And now it opens up an opportunity for somebody else. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Martin and Santee, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, Martin?
Gentlemen, good afternoon. And Frank, you just hit it right on the head there. Mike Schilt, I don't know anybody that's ever called him a liar. And, evasive in his press conferences and not always giving all the answers. Sure, that's okay. It's manager speak. You guys dig through it. You clarify it for us. You get us there. But I don't see him as a liar. I totally believe and back you up, Braden and Frank, completely with this. But my thought today, and I haven't heard it yet, and if I missed it, I missed it, but ownership needs to step up. Ownership needs to come out and say something about this. AJ Preller, GM, last year of the contract, all good, got a lot of information, but ownership needs to step up. I know it's still in transition turmoil, but it's their time. And they need to step up and tell San Diego what it is they're going to do for this fan base going forward to get us to Peter Seidler's goal. So anyway, great stuff, great takes on the interview. Always appreciate what each of you bring. And Frank, you got this one today. So take care, guys. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Martin. Appreciate the phone call. Like Maxwell said, retiring to a beach house in North Carolina sounds pretty nice. If you had enough money right now working the job, even if it was a job you love, that you could just retire at a beach house that you own and not have to work again, wouldn't you do that?
Maybe it's a conspiracy theory because you're jealous you can't do it.
Yeah, maybe that's the case.
Maybe that's a thing.
Maybe you really want to do that job, but I mean, Mike Schilt doesn't have to work anymore. He can literally just be a dad. or a family man or whatever. He could do whatever he wants. He could go play golf every single day in North Carolina and live at the beach. That sounds pretty awesome.
Yep.
If I got paid enough money where I could live in Del Mar and just watch football all day and then like coach high school football on the side, I'd probably say yes to that. And I love this job. And I love everything I do. I love my 4 jobs that I have here in San Diego. I love them all. But like, when you have the ability to not have to go through the grind of the stress unless you like it, to do something that you love doing, it doesn't make it makes a lot of sense to me. All right. Based on, and I've given this a lot of thought now. Based on what has happened the last time the Padres hired a manager, which was Mike Shildt, and based on where this organization is at, and based on how everything is playing out in terms of what is expected of this organization, I think there's only one name for the job. I'd hire this man tomorrow. And we'll tell you about it when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Kind of an interesting week. This week, kind of last week. So, with not being able to participate in the Midday Sports Standoff, if you do, maybe tomorrow, Frank. Unless they decide to have some other breaking news tomorrow. If you could take me down at sports trivia, you could be qualified for a chance to win our grand prize, a trip to see Jerry Seinfeld in Las Vegas, including 2 tickets to the show on April 17th at the Coliseum at Caesars Palace, a 2-night stay at the Flamingo Hotel and Casino, and a $100 gas card. Jerry Seinfeld returns to the Coliseum at Caesars Palace on April 17th and 18th. See Ticketmaster.com for tickets and details.
Whatever leads me to do less prep work for the show, I am okay with.
There's a lot of stuff we haven't even gotten to yet.
Aztec
football has been great, and we haven't even been able to talk about Aztec football. Where's Sean Lewis? Sean, how's Aztec football doing?
How about them Aztecs?
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it. How about them Aztecs, huh?
I've had Monday's show written for 3 days now, and we still have not gotten to any of it.
We got Sean Lewis sound, right, from his press conference?
We do.
That's okay. We can air that again tomorrow because they're off this week.
They are.
Aztecs going to beat the bye week. And then we could say again next week. Sean, how about them Aztecs?
How about them Aztecs?
That's right, Sean. Aztecs are 5-1. It's not crazy to say that they could potentially be in the playoff, by the way.
No, it's not. And we'll get into more of that tomorrow.
It was crazy after the Washington State game. It's not as crazy anymore. Okay. Here's what I would do if I was the San Diego Padres.
You're right. Go Aztecs. They cannot lose this week.
Can't win either, though. You know what? They can win. They could have a great practice on Tuesday. Just ask Sonny Dykes and the Frogs, who have great Tuesday practices every time they lose. That might be a personal gripe of mine.
That's a Rich Kotite moment.
I thought we really had a great practice. I'm sure you did, Sonny. I'm sure you did have a really good practice today.
Maybe he's talking about, I believe it's this weekend. Isn't the
rivalry is this weekend?
No. The scrimmage against UCLA. The basketball
Aztec
game.
basketball
I believe that
is
Friday.
Friday.
Friday, yeah.
You could actually attend that game now.
We can, yes.
You can. I cannot.
Well, no, I mean, like
yes,
the general public, we
yes.
can, yes.
You can watch the Aztecs take on unranked San Diego State, take on ranked UCLA in an exhibition. I said it like that on purpose because it's a disgrace that San Diego State is not ranked in the top 25.
Sounds like more things we have to get into
It
tomorrow.
is AP poll malpractice that Aztec basketball is not ranked in the top 25.
Save it for tomorrow, big dog.
What did Mid-Major Madness tweet about that? Before I dive into what my plan would be for as the Padres?
Hold on, I got it.
Mid-Major Madness, by the way, great account to follow if you watch Mid-Major Basketball, which apparently is still technically San Diego State. They tweeted out.
I sent it to you.
I know you did. Where is it?
There it is. There's the page.
Aha! Here it is. No San Diego State in the preseason AP poll is criminal. Yeah, it is. It's criminal.
And the day before that, they had mentioned something. They had mentioned something else about San Diego State as well.
They said San Diego State better be ranked tomorrow.
There it is.
And then the next day said San Diego State not being ranked in the top 25 is criminal. It is criminal. AP poll voters, what are we doing? San Diego State did receive votes, though. Great. But what are we doing? Mid-majors in the AP preseason top 25 polls. None of them ranked. It was all power teams ranked in the top 25. Men received votes. Aztecs, Boise State, VCU, St. Mary's. Women got a ranking. Richmond got ranked in the women's basketball top 25. Princeton, South Dakota State, and Columbia in women's basketball received votes. All right. That's our gripe with the BS that is mid-major teams not getting ranked in the top 25. All right, let's talk about tomorrow. Okay. Let's talk about what I would do if I was running the Padres. Here's what I would do, okay? Let me ask the question first, and I think some people might understand what I'm saying here in a second. What did the Padres do when Bob Melvin decided to leave to take the Giants job? What did the Padres decide to do?
Hire within.
They hired within. What did they keep? If I had to look up, I could probably look it up on Baseball Reference. but the Padres coaching staff,
I know
managers and coaches,
the
right?
base coaches went. I think the bench coach went as well, but pretty much everything else stayed the same.
You look at they haven't, they didn't update this? The coaching staffs. That's so lame. Baseball Reference stopped updating the coaching staffs in for 2020.
He draws the foul.
That's a massive foul, dude. Massive foul.
Foul on Baseball Reference.
Foul on Baseball Reference is right. That was going to make it super easy for me, but now it's not. Let's take a look. So, what did they do after the 2023 season? They decided to hire from within and keep it consistent. They didn't change much of the staff. They didn't change much of the coaching staff. The coaching staff, aside from the guys that left with Bob Melvin, Ben Fritz stayed. Victor Rodriguez stayed. Ruben Niebla stayed. Tim Leeper stayed. Those are all coaches that stayed. Who else stayed? Brian Esposito stayed. Those are all. David Macias stayed. Most of the coaching staff stayed from what the last year was of Bob Melvin. Then, in 2024, they hire from within the organization, and they hire Mike Schilt. And what did they do? They kept a consistent coaching staff. Instead of Brian Esposito being the catching coach, he now became the bench coach. Mike McCoy stayed. Pat O'Sullivan stayed. Victor Rodriguez stayed. Ruben Niebla stayed. Ben Fritz stayed. David Macias, Tim Leeper, Morgan Burkhart all stayed. Almost the entire coaching staff stayed, except for a couple of people that followed Bob Melvin to the Giants. I think that's very important. And what have the Padres done the last two seasons? What did they do, Frank, in the last two seasons with this coaching staff that stayed, but all they did was change the manager who was part of the organization? What did they do in the last 2 years?
Made the postseason.
They made the postseason. What else did they do?
190-plus games.
190-plus games.
Second most games in franchise history 2 years ago.
And the most wins in 2 years. That's what they did.
JP Moore's getting ahead of us.
No, he's not. We're not bringing back Sleepy Bob.
Way to let it run, dude. Come on.
It's time to make Tim Leeper the manager. It's time. I like somebody who's like, Braden's about to say Victor Rodriguez, isn't he? No. I think it's time for David Macias, matter of fact. No. It's the consistency. You don't have to change everything again, right? What's everybody talking about when it comes to AJ Preller? His problem is like, oh, we got to change the coaching staff over again. The coaching staff stayed. I mean, as much as you want to talk about this particular staff, right? They have had two different managers that haven't lasted more than 2 years each. This is mostly the same staff that Bob Melvin had his first year as the manager of the Padres. This has been a very consistent group. This has been the same coaching staff for the last 4 years. Mike Schilt exits. You need a manager. And I'm telling you right now, it ain't Scott Service, and it ain't AJ Ellis, and I don't think it's Brian Esposito, even though he was the bench coach last year. I'm telling you, the best move the Padres can make, couple of things. First thing, extend AJ Preller. Number two, hire Ruben Niebla as quickly as humanly possible. We talk to a lot of Padres players on multiple shows. We talk to position players. We talk to pitchers. And what do they all say about Ruben Niebla, Frank?
They love him. They love him to death.
They love him. We talked with Jason Adam earlier in the season, right? Midway through the season, we went down. We talked with Jason Adam. We had the conversation, right, on our show. He was going to the All-Star game. And we had to ask him about Ruben Niebla because everybody rants and raves about how great of a coach Ruben Niebla is. And Jason Adams said, because I asked him about what's it like. I mean, every time he comes out to the mound, it seems like you guys make the adjustment you need to get out of a bad situation. And when he goes out there, Jason Adams said, like, he brings this calming presence that gets you to lock in to what you need to do. Here's the thing: if you if you sign Ruben Niebla to be the manager, it's not going to cost you a lot of money. You can keep most of your organization intact, most of the coaching staff intact. I would imagine most of these guys would like to come back. You can now promote Ben Fritz to be the bull. I mean, they've talked about how great the pitching staff has been with Ruben Niebla. They've talked about how great Ben Fritz has been in the bullpen. Here's what you do. Ruben Niebla becomes the manager. Ben Fritz becomes the pitching coach. You got to go find a bullpen coach. I don't know what you're going to do with Yu Darvish. Hey. Guess who wasn't mentioned by A.J. Preller today when he talked about the starting rotation? Guess who he didn't say? A.J. Preller is very tactical with what he says. He's very cautious about what he says. He picks and chooses his words wisely. He did not mention Yu Darvish as part of the rotation. He talked about Dylan Cease potentially leaving. He talked about Michael King potentially leaving. He talked about Joe Musgrove being a nice little boost back to the rotation. He talked about Nick Pivetta. Didn't talk about Yu Darvish. Didn't talk about him at all. That is who you hire to be the manager. You hire Ruben Niebla. And for everybody that says like he doesn't want to manage a team, that's interesting because I'm telling you right now, he's going to get interviews for a managerial job. And it'll be interesting to see if he decides to take a managerial job somewhere else. That would really prove against the whole conversation of he doesn't want to be a manager. But you have had the same coaching staff for the last 4 years. Those are a lot of the same names. Go back and look at it. Keep that group intact, most of them. Make Ruben Niebla the manager. Promote Ben Fritz to pitching coach. Go find yourself, there's going to be a couple of guys that probably leave that might get a better opportunity somewhere else. Let Ruben Niebla hire his staff. And now you don't change anything when it comes to the culture of the team. In football, a coach is about scheme and X's and O's. You want a head coach that can scheme well, prepare well, be the motivator that's needed on any NFL Sunday or any college football Saturday. In baseball, it's all about culture. And the thing is you don't want to put this team through another major change of guys trying to figure out like whether or not they fit this culture, if they like this coach, if they could trust this coach, anything like that. Keep it the same. You're not trying to change the culture. I think the culture has been changing in a positive direction the last couple of years. You are now facilitating to the guys that are under contract for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Promote Ruben Niebla to be the manager. You can't afford to bring in an unexperienced coach that doesn't get respected by the Padres. I know Ruben Niebla does not have any managerial experience, but I'll tell you what, the players respect him. When you have players that don't respect the manager, it's not going to work out. And you know what this group is not going to do? This group is not going to respect a brand new manager that isn't at least what a player, like at least a player that they respected, right? So to me, when I looked at potential candidates for the San Diego Padres, It has to be somebody that the veterans respect. They did not respect Jace Tingler. They liked him as a person. They did not respect him as a manager. The only type of managerial inexperience. You look at some of the players that didn't have managerial experience that took over teams. Mark Kotze, who I think has done a great job in Oaklamento, despite everything that's about the A's. You look at Vogt over there in Cleveland, who's done a great job. Those are players that had good Major League Baseball careers that the players that play for them respect. So guys like Yadier Molina, Albert Pujols, I think those would be like the only players that you could bring in that the organization, and when I mean the organization, I mean the players would respect that doesn't have any managerial experience. Ruben Niebla does it, but the players respect him. Ruben Niebla is the correct choice for the manager. He is the correct choice to be the manager of the San Diego Padres. I honestly don't think there's anybody better. You talk about the inconsistencies of this coaching staff, all these different managers. The coaching staff's been the same for the last 4 seasons. Just the manager has changed. Keep it the same. The culture is changing from what it was a handful of years ago. It is making adjustments. Most of that's on the playoffs, or on the players. Most of that's on the players. But if you think that bringing in a guy that's just going to yell and MF everybody on this team, you think that's going to work, it ain't going to work. Not with this group. Not with this group. Unfortunately for you, because they're on the team for a long time, and everybody's problem that they have had, at least in the YouTube chat, has been Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr., you need to have somebody that they respect. But to me, he's the best option for the job. I mean, what Yadier Molina, maybe. I wouldn't mind that, but then you got to bring in a whole new coaching staff. They got to start from square one again with the team that they have. Niebla's a good coach. He's well respected in the organization. He knows what it's like to work with AJ Preller. He knows what he's signing up for. If he wants the managerial job, he should have it. If he doesn't, then fine. If you're if you think it's worth risking him being the pitching coach and having to go somewhere else, fine. That's fine too. But I don't want to hear anything about Bruce Bochy coming in here. I don't want to hear anything about like Albert Pujols, right? I mean, has he ever managed before? Who knows? Again, you'd have to buy him out. That'd be expensive. The cheap way and the best way is Ruben Niebla. That, to me, is the best choice to be the manager of the San Diego Padres. I'm telling you, this is not a group of players that has responded well to guys that haven't managed before that they didn't already know. This is not a group of players that, to me, can handle guys really being on their ass. I mean, even with Mike Schilt, even though I thought Mike Schilt did a good job getting these guys to play hard, but at the same time, like, he was protecting them a lot in the media. Ruben Niebla's the best choice. If you think you're going to get somebody in here that's just going to start yelling at people and it's going to change anything, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's just not going to work with this group. It's just not. There's some players that do not respond well to that. And I can think of 2 that are getting paid a lot of money that are on this team, that are going to be on this team for a long time, that will never respond well to that. I'm just saying how it is. You have to you have to really cater to the 2 highest paid players on this team. And Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. You need to get those guys right. Because I think the way Jackson Merrill plays at his young age, I don't think it really matters what manager he has. That guy's going to go out and ball. I think Xander Bogaerts is going to go out there and ball. I don't think some of these guys are going to light the fire under them that you think they're going to do. Ruben Niebla, to me, is the best choice. What do you think? 833-288-0973, 0973. Braden Surprenant Show, final segment for Gwynn and Chris. Setting Summer Sports Station, 97 to the Fan. This hour on 97 The Fan is brought to you by our local Kia dealers. Visit kia.com to discover a movement that inspires. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local, each every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. We're going to play more sound, if you missed it, from the press conference from earlier today with A.J. Preller meeting with the media about Mike Shildt retiring, about where do they go from here, about his future, A.J. Preller's with the organization, and about what potentially could happen with the roster. We haven't even gotten to the roster stuff that he answered going into the offseason. We talked briefly about the starting pitching, but he talked about the bullpen being a strength again. And there was a lot of interesting things that A.J. Preller said mixed with interesting things that he did not say.
Sounds like 11 o'clock tomorrow, does it not?
It could be the rest. It could be later on this hour too.
Could be, but you know.
You're just being lazy. It's a rainy day. Frank wants to go home, put his sweats on, have a home-cooked meal, put a fire on, watch a movie, and call it a night.
Bingo.
There it is. That's Frank. He's got to put on Big Red. Zombieland Big Red versus FIU. Florida Worldwide. That's what he's going to do. We'll talk about that later on. We do want to get your phone calls, though. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. I think the best approach for the Padres to keep things consistent, because it's all about culture, and I think the Padres have improved their culture, even though they lost to the Cubs. I think there's a couple of things that need to be done, but I don't think they need to start over with a brand-new coaching staff. I really don't. I think that's a little bit much. So what I would do is I'd sign A.J. Preller to a 3-year deal, two-year extension to give him 3 years. He has 2026, 2027, 2028. I'd promote Ruben Niebla, give him a 3-year contract to be the manager. You could reevaluate after the next 3 years. Keep the coaching staff as close to the same as possible. It's not a big money splash for you. And then go out and add the pieces that you need in the starting pitching department, a power bat or two, and see what you got for 2026. That's what I would do. A lot of people for Ruben Niebla, a lot of people against Ruben Niebla. A lot of people think they could bring in a manager and keep Ruben Niebla. There's no guarantee that that happens, by the way. We've said it before. I will continue to say it. If you bring in a new manager, he's going to want to bring in his own staff. And even though Ruben Niebla is really good, maybe he doesn't want to be a pitching coach. Maybe he does want to be a manager. It's going to be tough, I think, for him to turn down other managerial jobs. Just because Darren Balsley stayed through a couple of regimes as a pitching coach and Ruben Niebla has now done it, doesn't mean that's always going to be the case. I think the best approach for the Padres is to hire Ruben Niebla as the manager instead of bringing in somebody that doesn't know how the organization works and tries to change massively. Again, you have to understand the clientele of your team. And I don't think guys like Manny Machado or Fernando Tatis Jr. handle change well. And I also don't think you need to really change everything that they do again for the amount of times that it's already happened since they became Padres in 2019. We talked about the general manager deal. I said, give me some names if you think somebody's going to be better. A lot of people said Theo Epstein. Theo Epstein doesn't want to be a general manager anymore. Good luck. Saw some Kim Ng conversations as well. But who knows if she rearranges the entire organization. I mean, you don't know what you don't know. Sometimes the devil's in the details. And sometimes the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Before you start making some of these moves. But Frank, I didn't get your reaction. I mean, what would you, that was what I would do. What would Frank Marchese do?
First of all, extend A.J. Preller. That's number one. Number two is it depends on, for me, it depends on whether or not you believe Ruben Niebla is going to leave. If he wants a manager spot and if he's intent on leaving, then I give him the job. I say it's yours. If you want it, don't need to interview you. We've known you for this long. Have fun. Do what you got to do. It's a lot easier to find a pitching coach than it is to find a manager as far as number of people out there. If he's content to stay, I would say I would look at one of the guys I mentioned yesterday was Davey Martinez, a guy who does know how to handle superstar players on his roster, problematic superstar players on his roster, and has won a World Series before. I would think a guy like Davey Martinez would be a good fit here. And you could say, oh, well, his teams were awful. Right, his teams were awful. It's not his fault. Washington Nationals are one of those perennial rebuilding teams. It's like the Marlins. You get lucky if you get a good batch of young players that come up at the right time, all at the same time. There you go. You win. That's how you win 2 World Series. For the Washington Nationals, it was the same thing. They had a bunch of good young players all come up under contract at the same time. That's how they won it. I think Davey Martinez would be a guy I would look at again if you do not believe that Ruben Niebla will leave. If you believe he will leave, Niebla's your guy.
I think a lot of people are just like, we need a guy that's going to yell and scream and hold these guys accountable. You know what? That doesn't work anymore in this day and age of athletics. It doesn't.
It does not.
Because you're talking about a generation of athletes that have always been told they're the greatest thing to ever live. They're not going to respond well to that particular coach. Some guys do, but not all of them. And the Padres don't have a lot of guys that respond well to that. And the reality is, the more players coming up through the ranks also do not respond well to that, especially baseball players.
Mm-hmm.
Especially baseball players. So if your old school approach of like, we need somebody to yell and scream, it ain't going to work. It ain't going to work. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. And I think a lot of people are in this territory right now that we can't hire Ruben Niebla as a manager. He's never done it before, and he needs to be our pitching coach. There's no guarantee that he stays to be the pitching coach.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. He knows the organization. He knows the team.
When talking about inexperienced managers, we're talking about guys that have never done that before and are also brand new to the org, where they have to win over the players that they know what they're talking about.
If you're going for a first-time manager, you're either a god-awful team that has no hope of winning at all, see Andy Green, see Chase Tingler, or you're a guy who has been in the organization. That's the first-time manager you're okay with. Is a guy who has been there, knows the guys, knows what they need, knows what makes them tick. That's the first-time manager that is okay. That's the one you want.
Yeah.
If you're going to get one, that's the one you want.
People are like, what about Ozzie Guillen? He is not going to be allowed to manage anymore in this day and age of baseball.
No.
Nobody responds well to that. This generation does not respond well to that.
He's barely hanging on as a television panelist for the White Sox.
Yeah, and then Ferris Khan in the chat said, that's on the GM. Those players don't exist, dude. That's very few and far between those players that are just gung-ho, rah-rah guys.
Yep.
They just don't. They just don't really exist.
Jackson Merrill doesn't come around
too
often as far as just a guy who wants to play the game. And as far as a guy who will do anything to play the game at a high level, Cam Scatterbo does not come around all that often either. A guy who will run through the wall for recreation.
That's why when he signed that contract extension, Jackson Merrill is such a breath of fresh air.
Exactly.
Because there's no guarantee. That's just, you don't see those players anymore.
Nope.
I look at the high school level right now, just in San Diego. Most players playing high school football care more about their personal accolades and what they look like on social media than winning games. They really could care. They couldn't care less about winning games. That's not every high school player. We have some on our team that really want to win. We also have a lot that don't really care if they win or not. And that's at every high school.
You know what's unfortunate about the players that play because they love the game and want to win?
They don't get to play very long.
Exactly.
Because they're not as good as the players that don't really care about winning and only care about themselves.
Yep.
Yes. That's just, but that's the general. We have made sports such a massive business that kids don't play for the love of the game. They play because it's an opportunity to make money. Or they look good on social media. If you had to ask most kids that play high school football in San Diego, if they play because they like the game and they want to win, or if they play because they look cool on social media and it might be able to give them a scholarship. That's what they're doing. It's the scholarship to potentially make money.
If it's if it's the scholarship for educational purposes, you're like,
That's
okay,
which is never the case.
okay, cool, not bad.
I almost feel like sometimes I care, and I don't know, it's not about every family, but sometimes I feel like I care about my players' grades more than their parents do. Based on their actions,
I can't even fathom
I
that.
would prove to be right. And you know what? I'm not the only coach at other schools that think that. I've had conversations. And sometimes the coaches care more about the kids' grades than the parents do. The parents care about targets. The parents care about how many times their kid gets the ball so they can go play D1 athletics.
It's Coach Carter.
100%. My argument is if you don't have the GP, they're still not letting you in the school until they become professional. Like they don't get it. They don't get it. But that's what's happening right now at the high school ranks. That's probably what it was happening at the high school ranks 15, 20 years ago, and why you have the athlete that you have currently at the top level. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's the reality of the situation. That's why the old school getting an Augie Garrido in there to scream at somebody ain't going to work. It just won't. And that's millennials and Gen Z.
And think of it this way as well. Everyone thought it was funny, the yelling and screaming rant I went on about ESPN with their most exciting player thing, right?
That was hilarious. Did we save that, by the way?
It becomes, I'm sure it's saved somewhere. It becomes less funny and less impactful if I do something like that every single day.
True.
Same thing as a manager. If a manager comes in screaming and yelling, the first couple times you're like, oh God, here we go. Especially if you don't get the results, that shtick wears quick. And you will lose the locker room. You will lose the clubhouse very, very quickly. Because yelling and screaming, that's a once in a while thing that works to get a point across. Can't be coming in and doing that every single day. Otherwise, it loses all of its meaning, all of its impact, all of its force.
This guy in the chat, Padres over everyone in the chat says, you need your own podcast where you could do the whole segment about high school football. I used to have a high school football podcast. I'm going to tell you right now, if I had a high school football podcast, I would expose too many secrets about every team in high school football. I know way too much that's going on. People would get so upset about what I would say. But it would be like, I know that school's special rule. I know that school's special rule. I know that school's special rule. I know where CIF is screwing that up. I know all of this stuff. You wouldn't want me to have a full, uncovered high school football podcast. I would expose too many high schools for all the BS that they do behind the scenes.
That's something you do after coaching.
That's what I'm done coaching. That's something my dad, who doesn't want to coach anymore, wants to do. Maybe I'll just give him a mic and let him just rip everybody. Calling out all the secrets. I know where a lot of bodies are buried in the high school football realm. And everybody thinks that they're playing by the rules, and they ain't. And I find it funny.
JP Moore has a great idea as far as a head coach goes, or a manager.
He's 6 feet underground, unfortunately. I don't think that would work anyway.
No, I don't think so.
But
different sport, I believe.
Anyway, every school in San Diego right now that's good, that school, I mean, look at the top 10. All those schools don't have all kids from their neighborhood. I hate to tell you, they don't. They don't all have they don't have kids all from their neighborhood. As much as they'd like to say it, and as much as they like to complain about it, they don't. And guess what? Here's news for everybody out there in San Diego. You want to know some great news? Frank, you want to know some great news?
Yeah, we're going to break.
You want to know some great news? No, we're not going to break it. You want to know some great news about high school? People understand this. They don't get it because back in the day, you couldn't do this. You can go to any high school in San Diego, no matter where you live. It's a simple paperwork thing. You can go to any high school in San Diego.
Are we supposed to be whispering right now?
There's nobody stopping you. You can go to literally anyone. So I find it funny when people are like, we're just trying to do the best with what we got and what shows up to campus. Ah! That's funny. We know that's not the trade. We know that's not the case. We know if you transfer and you mark a special box, CIF can't investigate, and guess who doesn't have to sit out? Oh, the kid that marked that special box. I'm telling you, you don't want me to do a high school football podcast because I would expose every school for the nonsense that they have.
I didn't play sports. I played a little bit of baseball at Olympian, but I had to drive past Otay Ranch every single day to get to Olympian.
Mm-hmm. It's possible.
I wanted to go to Otay Ranch, if I'm honest. I wanted to play on their hockey team.
They had hockey? That's kind of sick.
Otay Ranch had roller hockey.
Roller hockey? I know Cathedral has roller hockey. But anyway,
Olympian.
When I'm done coaching, maybe I'll start maybe I'll just let it all out. All the secrets. So many secrets. Ron and LaMesa, Joseph and Santee, John and Carlsbad will get to you when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show. Standings number one sports station, 97 through the Fan. All guests on 97 The Fan join us via the David P. Shapiro fan hotline. Facing criminal charges, trust David P. Shapiro criminal defense attorneys helping clients regain control since 2010. Visit davidpshapirolaw.com. I'm Braden Surprenant. He's Frank Marchese. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. I'd have Ruben Niebla manage this team and roll with the same coaching staff. That's what I would do. What do you think? 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. To me, you have to hire somebody that's going to get your top players off and running and playing to their best potential, which is Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. That's what you're looking for. I think a lot of the other guys will be fine with whoever you hire, but I think that needs to be the case. I don't necessarily think you need to have a situation where you need to change everything from the previous 3 years, 4 years. I mean, 4 years in a row, you've had most of the same coaching staff. You've already given your top two players, at least on payroll, many different coaching staff since they both joined the team in 2019. Try to keep it as consistent as possible. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Joseph and Santee. Joseph, what's going on, man?
How you doing, Braden?
Doing well.
All right, so I would love to see Niebla take over as manager, or if he's okay staying pitching coach, bring in Bruce Bochy. But going to the fans that want to see somebody come in and yell and scream, I feel like that would, generations aside, a manager's going to yell and scream at a player over bad defense and bad base running. Over the last 5 years, we've been one of the best teams in baseball at both of those. You don't yell and scream at a player because he doesn't hit a 98-mile-an-hour two-seamer that runs in on the hands. Turns out baseball's just hard. And so you can't yell and scream at somebody for their hitting at the plate, and it's on the manager and the hitting coach to establish their approach. So you're not going to yell at the scream at the player for that either. So you don't. I don't think an old school manager like that would be beneficial to the team anyways, because we don't need somebody to come in and yell and scream when we've been one of the best teams in baseball defensively and on the base paths. And then lastly, I want to harp on something a caller from earlier said, and that I think I agree a lot more with Frank than you, Braden, is that the normalization of the death threats and just the bad social media presence against everyone from you guys to the managers and players on sports teams. Saying that people are surprised is one thing, but I think that it does need to be talked about more in a negative light, and fans need to be more adamantly discouraged of that behavior, because these guys have a hard enough job as it is, trying to appease tens of thousands, if not millions of fans, trying to win in these very hard sports. Throwing on top of that, having them worry about the safety of themselves and their family, there's just no place for it in society and in sports. So Frank adequately caught that caller was saying that we need to just sort of talk about it more. And sure, maybe people are surprised, but I don't think that it should be normalized. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm not normalizing it, Joseph, but the problem is that people don't understand is you think that those are normal people doing those things. Those are not normal people.
No, absolutely
Those
not.
are crazy people. Those are people that something is wrong with them. It's not normal. So try to convince a crazy person not to do the crazy things that they do. That is the task. I think a lot of people, like, when they weigh in on this stuff, right? And they go like, we have to talk about this. We have to talk about this. This is not right. It's not right. But you do realize it's not normal people that are doing this, correct? This is not Frank Marchese got upset and now he writes a death threat and then goes like, oh, my bad. I forgot how bad that is. No. These are crazy people.
Sorry, Mike, lost my head.
These are people you cannot reason with a crazy person. Unless you have the ability. If you think that, like, us talking about that is going to have crazy individuals start going like, yeah, you know what? That actually, why was I doing that?
That would honestly have me more concerned.
Right.
Because it's like, okay, he's crazy and I got through to him.
Yeah.
What does that say about me? Am I crazy?
Frankly, did that to the Mets in early September. But that's the reality of the situation. Like, I don't want to put cold water in this. It's obviously a very serious topic of conversation. But the reality is you're not reasoning with normal people. They're not normal people. And so when you think you can fix the problem by reasoning with these people, it's foolish. You're not going to be able to reason with people that have something missing. And that, I think, to me, that plays more into the mental health crisis in the United States more than anything else. But every time you talk about the mental health, it's like you view these people like they're normal and like everything's okay. It's not okay. There's something seriously wrong, but we ignore that fact because of feelings, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can't believe this person's not acting normal. Well, that's because they're not normal. So that's why, to me, I found it shocking that people were shocked about this. This is a common occurrence. But again, you're not talking about normal people. You're talking about people that are not right. Those are the people that write these death threats. And we're talking about this because that's what Mike Shildt talked about being one of the reasons that he decided to leave. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Ron in La Mesa, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, Ron?
Braden. I had every intention calling in yesterday and bragging about my Wildcats, and then you guys dropped the bomb on Shildt, so I had to regroup. And so I'm here today to say, hey, we had a nice win, so be it. But let's start things with Bowmel. When we hired Bowmel to coach the team, we've had the best 4 years of Padres that I can remember. Shildt wants to retire. God bless him. He did a great job. But going forward, we need to keep our people in the system. I think they've got something set up that's really good. So I have to agree with you 100%. Ruben is the first person I said yesterday when my son told me that Shildt retired. He would be great. Bring everybody else up and then hire somebody else in the bullpen. Oh, I don't know, maybe you, Darvish. Let him retire, free up his money so we can sign our other people. But we've got a good organization. And yes, we need to hire Preller back. He may be goofy. He may not, people may not like him, but this man has worked hard for this organization. And what he's done in the last 4 years, I think is the best thing going forward. People, Padres are relevant. I've said it 100 times. So yes, hire Ruben.
I appreciate the phone call. Thanks again, Ron. That's where we're at with this. I mean, honestly, it leads to a different thing for me. We talked about this coaching staff, right? Now, the manager has changed twice in this 4 years. Correct?
Correct.
The manager has changed twice. The coaching staff has not changed too many times. If we look at, and I want you to look at this coaching staff that the Padres have had, since, I guess, 2022, right? 2022 season was the season that the Padres made
when
it.
Melvin came in. Yeah.
When Melvin came in. If you look at the staff that they had in 2022 and you compare it to the staff that they have in 2025, it's relatively the same crew. Now, there's a couple of people that moved on, right? A couple of people moved on. Ryan Christensen, one of those people that moved on, right? Matt Williams, one of those people that moved on with Bob Melvin. But you look at the coaching staff in 2022. Remember, people forget that Mike Shildt was the third base coach for a little bit of time when Matt Williams was going through health problems. Do we forget about that? He was on the field with these guys.
Wait, who? One more time?
Mike Shildt in 2022, when they went to the NLCS, during the season when Matt Williams was having
Oh,
some health
yes,
concerns.
he was the third base
was
coach,
the third
yes.
base coach. It's not like he wasn't in the dugout every day.
I thought you were talking about I believe it was in 2023 when Melvin had to step away for like a couple weeks. That was Christensen.
No, Christensen took over for that.
Yeah,
but we're talking about the
I thought
third
you were
base
talking
coach.
I thought you were talking about that.
We look at this year's staff and 2022 staff. Ruben Niebla is on that staff.
Yes.
Morgan Burkhart is on that staff. Ben Fritz is on that staff. David Macias is on that staff. Mike Schilt is on that staff. Peter Somerville is on that staff. Ryan Flaherty has moved on. Okay. Bob Melvin, Ryan Christensen, Michael Bradar, all those guys ended up going to San Francisco. But that was a core group in 2022. You look at the 2023 coaching staff. This is still a Bob Melvin coaching staff with last year's staff. Okay? Mike McCoy on this year's coaching staff. Pat O'Sullivan on this year's coaching staff. Victor Rodriguez on this year's coaching staff. Ruben Niebla on this year's coaching staff. Ben Fritz on this year's coaching staff. David Macias, this year's coaching staff. Tim Leeper, this year's coaching staff. Morgan Burkhart, this year's coaching staff. Jose Andrade on this year's coaching staff. Brian Esposito on this year's coaching staff. Peter Somerville on this year's coaching staff. You can look at, since 2022, the Padres have had the same coaching staff. Is that fair to say?
More or less, yeah.
Since 2022. Do we want to look at what the Padres, so collectively in this era of Padres baseball, where you look at 2022 on, the Padres won 89 games in 2022. They won 82 games in 2023. They won 93 in 2024. They won 90 in 2025. They made the playoffs 3 out of the last 4 seasons with this coaching staff. Okay? The Tingler staff's gone in 2021. 2022 on has been the same coaching staff. They've made the playoffs 3 out of the last 4 years. And they have won. They have been over 500 in every single one of those years. They had won a total of regular season games of, doing quick math in my head, they have won 354 games over that 4-year span. This coaching staff has. So as much as people say they got to change everything, change the culture, why would you change something that has been successful in 3 of the last 4 years? I try to keep that staff intact as much as possible. And in order to do so, I believe you would have to promote from within, which means you have to find the guy that is going to be the best fit for that group. And to me, it's Ruben Niebla. I don't know how many people in the Padres organization would have that same impact. Again, Mike Schilt was in the dugout in 2022. He was the third base coach. I don't know. It wasn't too many games, but he was in the...
He was the bench coach, was his official capacity, I believe.
No, he was not. He was fill-in third base coach. I remember because he was in the front office doing stuff. I forgot what he was doing. I think he was doing like player development or something.
Yeah.
And then they pulled him down to the dugout when Matt Williams got sick.
Okay.
And he filled in as the third base coach. And then when Williams came back, he went back to the front office.
Okay. I thought
But
he
it's
was
the same
I
crew.
thought he was a coach.
It's the same coaching staff. These are a lot of the same guys. You cannot tell me that in those 4 years, the Padres are not successful. Are they successful in those 4 years? More successful than they've been. Consistently a contender, which is exactly what you want them to be. A couple of changes here and there is probably fine. But to me, keep the staff in place. This is the same staff. Even though the managers have changed. And again, they didn't fire Bob and they didn't fire Mike. They both left. But they've kept the same coaching staff. Keep the consistency. Because in these last 4 years, You've made the playoffs 3 times. They've made the playoffs 4 of the last 6, and they've made the playoffs 3 of the last 4. That is consistent winning. Yes, I know we all want a World Series championship. Yes, I know we're frustrated that it's taken so long. But the reality of the situation is you have been a team that has consistently been a playoff contender every year since 2020. Even in the collapse years of 2023 and 2021, they were right there knocking on the door. 2023, they still finished above 500. Out of the last, since 2020, they've only finished below 500 one time. That is consistent playing. That is consistent running of a team. Keep it consistent with your stars that have been here now for a long time. The best way to do that, in my opinion, is by having Ruben able to be the manager. I still think manager is the most overrated position in all of sports, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's about the culture. Don't change the culture. The culture right now is winning. Do the players need to play a little bit better? Yes. Do they need to add a little help? Yes. Most of the problems that the Padres have right now come with the players being able to get the job done. It's not the coaching staff. It's not the general manager. It's not the ownership. Give the players an opportunity by keeping things consistent. No, this is not doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. You're getting the results that you want. It's making the playoffs. Now the next step is to win in the playoffs. I think they could do that with the coaching staff. Because before this, remember, was anybody saying at the end of the season when it said, like, it's time to get to the next level, we're going to fire Mike Schilt? Did anybody say that? So why would you fire his staff? That's the question I ask. That's the reason why I'm going the direction I'm going in terms of a new manager for the Padres. When we come back, we'll get back to your phone calls. John, Brandon, Austin, talking about this press conference we had today, Padres baseball, final segment of the Braden Surprenant Show. Well, this Mike Schilt news has like carried our show the last 2 days. Already in the final segment of this show. What happened to the show today? It just flew right by.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've been saving it. It's been on retainer. You will hear Monday's show
Wednesday.
tomorrow.
That's right. A lot of it is still very much
relevant.
Yeah, it's evergreen for the most part. How about them Aztecs?
How about them Aztecs?
How about them Aztecs?
That's right, Sean. We'll actually talk about the Aztecs tomorrow.
Think should we do what we were intending to do on Monday?
Open
Should
the
we
show
open
on
the show
Wednesday.
with the Aztecs?
I don't know. Maybe.
We do kind of have to get back into a normal rhythm here.
Yep. And then you know what's going to happen? They're going to start doing interviews for managerial candidates. I love this. This is great. Keep the Padres relevant during the offseason. This is fantastic. I love this.
Thank you for helping us out. San
That's
Diego
right.
Padres.
We love it. We love the content. It's so great. Okay.
Make me a big Padre fan over this offseason if you do that.
Is that
You
right?
might convert. If you make these
Big
shows
Chargers hater.
If you make these shows easy to write over this offseason, you will make me a huge fan of yours this offseason.
We've been so busy with stuff. We didn't even get to our sports fix today.
The what?
Which is brought to you by QC Kinetics.
The what?
The sports fix.
The what?
What?
It's the sports thread.
Sports
sir.
thread. That's right. The sports thread. Brought to you by QC Kinetics. Stop sitting on the sidelines. QC Kinetics gets you back in the game without surgery. To learn how, visit QCkinetics.com.
I know the sports thread went on for a year. We got to break you out of that.
No, Sports Fix went on for a year.
Yeah,
Sports
that's-
Thread is going on, which, by the way,
Exactly.
I came up with that name, so I should probably know it better.
But I understand Sports Fix might still be a reflex. We got to get you out of that. That was a previous regime. We
That's
got to
right.
we got to change the culture here. We got to get you out
Change
of
the
that.
culture.
We got to get you out of that.
Change the coaching staff.
We got to get you to the sports thread.
833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. A lot of people want to weigh in. More of the sound's going to be played on Gwynn and Chris with what AJ Preller had to say. There's a lot of other stuff that we want to dive into that we didn't get to dive into today about this matter that we'll dive into tomorrow. A lot of stuff from the Dennis Lynn article from today. Remember tonight, cheer inwardly for Big Red and outwardly for FIU. Great advice. Go Aztecs. Right here. You stink. Zombieland. Big Red Zombieland. All right. Let's get to your phone calls reacting to Mike Schilt's retirement and what AJ Preller had to say today on the press conference. John in Oceanside. You're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, John?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking the call. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, first of all, I think about, I know you coach and, you know, you have empathy for people that go through the ebbs and flows of winning, losing, and now there's death threats and everything that goes with it. And I had a whole different take I was going to do, but I just am thinking about Mike, and I'm really hoping that he can take a year or two off and come back to the game, because I feel like he did a really, really solid job. I just do. And I just wanted to get that out of the way. And I know we're probably all hoping he finds health and wellness and a balance. And that's kind of it. You know, you coach, you go home, you talk to your wife, you know, your dog, whatever it is. It's just finding that balance. And I hope he does find that. And then I just wanted to talk about your ethos of in keeping the coaching staff intact. That's kind of a no-brainer. If something's working, don't fix it. I don't know if Ruben Niebla can manage, you know, and I know you've said it's overrated, but I do think it is a grind, it is a marathon, and he seems like an intelligent, nice, well-liked person, so he'll probably be able to pull it off. So that's really my Padres take. And just brief 15 seconds going into your football, the high school football. It seems like, and I know you're a Cathedral Catholic guy, it seems like, and I'm just on my soapbox right now, whatever transgressions public schools do, they're keeping up with schools like Bishop's, Cathedral Catholics, that are able to just cherry pick talent I'm just interested on your take on that. You don't have to do it now, but maybe it's something you can talk about later.
My take on that, and here's the thing, is I don't really care what schools do, but I just don't like the fact that only one school gets only like a handful of schools get criticized and everybody else, cries foul all the time. My biggest take on this, John, in particular with high school sports, especially in San Diego, what we know, and it's different in Orange County. My biggest take, and I have to say this all the time to coaches that just believe false narratives about my particular school, and I usually blow their mind when it comes to when they start to realize, and a lot of coaches that we have that were at other schools, specifically public schools, that come to ours and realize exactly what we do is not anything like the rumors that are out there. They realize that, like, oh, everybody's playing by the same rules. Everybody's playing by the same rules. That's my take on this. And again, the cherry picking thing is one thing, but the reality of the situation is, I've said this multiple times, parents send their kids to schools that will let them, with the programs that they have, thrive in said schools. Look at Lincoln. Lincoln has done a great job with their football program. Lincoln has done a great job in getting kids recruited to the D1 level. Lincoln is doing a great job of being one of the best football programs, not only in San Diego, but in the state of California. There's no question why kids are going to Lincoln to play football. They have a great program. As a parent, you want to send your kid who's good in football to a place that has a good football program. It's pretty simple. And so for me, I'm tired of listening to coaches at other high schools bitch and moan that they have, like, I'm just trying to, when everybody's got a special rule to get kids in their school. Everybody's playing by the same rules. And the difference is for us, and I'll say this, I get on my soapbox about this all the time. Anybody attending Cathedral Catholic High School in particular, and this is the school I coach at, I know all the ins and outs, and I'm not BSing anybody. They're making a sacrifice to go there. They're doing what Frank did and driving past high schools early in the morning to go work out to come to our high school. And even if they're getting financial aid, they're still paying something to go there. Your high school is free. So in reality is, like any type of scholarship you get, you still have to pay to go to Cathedral. And if you believe in the full ride scholarship thing, which is not true, if you believe in that and they're getting the tuition paid for, that is evening the playing field with the local public school. It's free to send your kid to public school. It's free. It's absolutely free. Why would I, as a parent, if I had, like, I grew up in Scripps Ranch. Let me ask you this question. If Scripps Ranch had this, phenomenal program that was the sport that my kid played, and it was free to go to, and it's down the street, why in the world would I send my kid to Cathedral when I can send him to the school down the street? Frank, answer that for me. Why would I do that? Why would I pay money and drive my kid to a school in Del Mar when the school down the street is free and it's good in education and their program's good? Why would I do that?
There's no real reason.
There's no reason. I mean, I could crush that narrative every single time somebody wants to bitch about it. It's like, hey, look at the situation. Your local school is free. Why would I drive my child ways away to this school, even if they're paying for it? Because I'm not getting any cash back. I'm losing money in gas. I'm losing money in driving them there, finding rides, working. You're making a sacrifice. Why would I do that when I can go to the local high school for free? Go ahead. Give me a call on that tomorrow. Why would I do that? It makes no sense. I usually put the kibosh on that stuff pretty easily, but I have no problems with the public schools do. We're all playing by the same rules. I'm tired of people complaining about it. That will finish up our show. We're going to talk more about Mike Schilt tomorrow. Aha! Big Red, FIU, West Kentucky. We'll talk about that too.
Sam Darnold.